Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. A big, huge, massive, warm welcome to this, the Freaky Friday show, right here on www.truthfrequencyradio.com. Hope you're all doing wonderfully well out there tonight, and you're all ready, buckled up for a night of woo. Tonight, I've got the woo crew on board. I've got Popeye, Marty, Joe Joseph, and Jai D. Moore from the Red Pill Reports. So, Joe, I'm going to come to you first, you pie, leaving me to do the intro again. Every week.
Hey, man, it's Freaky Friday again. So we've done Freaky Friday 3 times in the last week, basically.
It's got to be something to do with CERN firing up. Time's all gone to shot, man.
It is, man. Everything's just upside down on its head. It'll be good tonight. You know, we got such a smorgasbord of stuff to go over. Oh, and it's all incredibly freaky.
Very freaky.
Yes, very freaky indeed.
Oh, what was that, Joe? Was that voices in the background?
Oh, yeah, my she just wants to whip me with licorice.
Sounds good. But like I was saying...
So if you'll excuse me, I'll be right back.
So while Joe's getting whipped with licorice, let me go to Jai D. Moore. How are you doing, man? You looking forward to tonight's Freaky Friday?
This is the best part of the week, getting to hang out with you guys and talk about all kinds of weird nonsense. And, I mean, how do you top getting whipped with licorice, though, right off the bat, though? I mean, that's kind of going to have to be the high water mark of the program, don't you think?
I know, we're 2 minutes in. How do we top that, really? But like you, Jai D, we do a daily show as well, and I'm sure Marty would probably agree that towards the end of the week, Freaky Friday is the thing we aim for, because it gets a bit tiring going over all the same old news Monday to Thursday, and then tonight we can just let it all go loose, man.
Well, yeah, man, especially if you're following the news on a regular basis like we are every day, it's difficult to not want to go to the woo, because they're throwing so much at you that seems to kind of relate to the conspiratorial side of life. But at the same time, there's so much news that we're trying to get across. At the same time, we don't get to get into as much depth. So it's nice to be able to kind of pull back the reins a little bit on a Friday and say, hey, remember that crazy crap that went down on a Monday? Maybe that was related to this or that. And, gives us an opportunity to kind of flesh some things out. And to be honest, getting an opportunity to have, a mind like yours and Popeye and Joe and Marty here, it's like, man, I feel like we could actually get something accomplished or actually come up with some new ideas that haven't already been thrown around. So I love being here, man. This is just good stuff,
Exactly. And if people like Coast to Coast, I was describing it earlier on as Coast to Coast for the big boys. This is where things get serious. Lots of woo, but lots of serious too. Now, you mentioned Popeye, but let me first come to the KBS man himself. Big Marty, how are you doing this Freaky Friday, man?
Yeah, doing great, thanks. We had a really warm day today, so spirits are high, and yeah, good stuff.
Come on, Marty, did you get chemtrailed again today? It was horrendous here.
No, they seem to be leaving my area out at the moment, so I'm not actually going to complain.
Well, us Scots can only take about 5 days of sunshine a year, so it's probably best that they start covering us up early. But anyway, Popeye, you're with us tonight, and I believe you're only here for the first hour, man.
No, I'm going to hang out for the first 2.
That's a good boy.
I'm going to do what I normally do. I'll hang out for the first 2, and then I'm going to go hit the gym.
Yes, we do have priorities, of course.
I have to.
Take care of his pectoral muscles, yes.
Well, I would like to stay in shape, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, yes, I do. Unlike you, I do keep myself somewhat fit and trim.
Yeah, but large pectoral muscles.
I could not resist hanging out with you, gentlemen, and I'll use that term loosely, Joe. But I'm going to be on the road for 2 weeks. I won't be able to hang out. So, yeah, I figured why not hang out for 2 hours with you guys tonight.
Well, remember, Popeye, wherever you are, make it TFR. Take it on the road with you, man. Spread the word on your way to the big day out in... Where is it you're traveling to?
Going out by Austin, Texas.
Do you know what's in... Texas is...
Enemy territory.
Yeah, enemy territory.
Yeah.
On multiple levels.
Yes, that's exactly what it's known for. Enemy territory.
Well, before we get into this Freaky Friday, there's just too many in the chat tonight, guys. 55, but a special shout out to the one and only Johnny Whistles. He's in the chat. He's playing listener tonight. He's having a nice night off from his night shift. So we best make sure this is a very Freaky Friday indeed, Joe.
Yes, it is indeed. And what better way to start off Freaky Friday than just diving into the deep end, shall we?
How come Schmiegel's not on with us on a Freaky Friday? No one's freakier than Whistles. He should be on with us. Just saying, Johnny.
I did try to get him, but he's obviously conjuring up some spells in the chat.
Just to let you know, Schmiegel, we do love you, so you can come on anytime you want.
See, he's got the third shift blues, is basically what it is. It's horrible.
He's feeling a lot of love in the chat room, though, so he's probably enjoying that.
He's liking the attention. That's good.
So, Joe, like you were saying, why not dive straight in? And I mean, what could be more woo than people burgers?
People burgers, yes. Yeah. So anyway, here I was, and I forget what we were talking about, but
what kind of conversation does
like ritual sacrifices? You know, like how this time of year is known for the mass sacrifices or the mass death and all that kind of stuff. You know, all these rituals, very ritualistic time of year. And so I remember hearing a couple months back this interview where this rabbi was talking about how these abducted children would get their blood drained, and they would use that blood in their in their rituals, and then the meat would go, or the bodies would go into the meat that's sold to like McDonald's and all this other places. And he says, the goyim would eat their own babies and all this kind of stuff. It's crazy. But anyway, I tracked down the audio to this, and I want to get the panel's thoughts on this. Now, mind you, this is, I think the Turner Broadcasting or Turner Radio Network or something. I don't even know if it still exists these days, but, and I don't know how old this is. It sounds like Blog Talk Radio. Could be.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't mean the Ted Turner network.
No,
you're talking about that other one that
okay. So yeah. And basically it's the radio host. I can't even remember the guy's name, but he's clearly, he doesn't like Jews. And then there's Rabbi Abraham Finkelstein that is, I guess, on the show defending Judaism. And then the whole conversation goes off the deep end. And
can I just point out that this guy must be like a total shill, whatever you want to call them, troll, because
listen to it first before you poo-poo.
I'm just saying,
till you hear this, man.
I'm just saying, because Finkelstein usually, when he goes on, he's on the opposite end.
It's not the same one. It's not the same one, Popeye. I checked.
It's not
You're
the same.
You're thinking of Norman Finkelstein. It's not him.
It's not the same dude. Okay.
Abraham Finkelstein.
Okay,
so just listen to this.
Actually, two individuals that come from two opposite parts of this planet, you, Rabbi Finkelstein, and yours truly, James Wickstrom. We are on two totally opposite sides of this planet, and both of us have two totally different wants and needs and desires against one another, and yet here we are, sitting here tonight live on the Turner Radio Network, discoursing about people, discoursing about things, being honest and truthful, and in telling the truth to the masses. But the masses have a hard time believing anything.
Well, we've done a great brainwashing job on them over the centuries, and especially the last few hundred years. We've just brainwashed them completely. They believe anything we tell them. And, in the meantime, we have a lot of fun around Passover where we steal the children. And, I know you know because I've heard it on your show before. I mean, we steal 100 to 300,000 children a year just here in this country. And we drain the blood and we mix it with the Passover bread. And then we throw the bodies into the slaughterhouses that we own. And we grind up all the bodies in the sausage and the hamburger. McDonald's is one of our favorite outlets. And the people, they eat it for breakfast. They eat their children for lunch. And, As Jews, we gotta do what we do. The most important thing to remember between you, Pastor Wickstrom, and me, Rabbi Avi Finkelstein of New York, that we both have two fathers, and so that's why we look at the world in two different ways.
And we know that there's a massive collision that's going to take place between two forces, don't we?
Well, that's what your book says. Our book says that we're going to take over the world.
Well, I look at you...
You're doing a pretty good job right now.
Yes, you've done a pretty good job, but there's quite an awakening coming. And my father, who's not your father, my father Yahweh, who isn't your father, of course, your father is talked about by my father in John 8:44, stating that your father was Satan, and you're the descendant of Cain, who was the first murderer. And you know that's true because you teach it in your synagogue.
Well, that's true, but it's not for you going to know, but right now it's too late. It's over for you like this. So that's why I'm speaking so honestly to bring up into the open so that you can see it for what it is. You're teaching the people real good, but they don't wake up, do they? You don't get a lot of followers, do they? Because you know why? They're scared of us Jews because they don't want to be called anti-Semites, and they believe that we're the chosen people. And so that's why we can do whatever we want to do, and we can get away with it because the white men are cowards. And we go to the synagogue all the time and have some Manischewitz and dance the Hava Nagila.
It's interesting. I've told people for years and years, it's not that you Jews are hiding anything. You're coming right out on television, in the newspapers, on the radio, and you're telling the people exactly what you're going to do before you do it, and they're brain dead.
Well, we did a good job with the public school system. We got you to put all of your children in there. You notice that the Jew doesn't put his children in there. They go to the Hebrew Academy where we teach them the real things, and then they go to the synagogue and they learn the real things. But we send your kids to the public school. We even have you tax from property that you never own your property. And so if you don't like, we actually take property. The kids, they get to be teenagers, and then we give them the music. Not that we really want to call it music, because, oy vey, that's not music. But they listen to that, and then they want to do what they want to do, and so we sell them drugs, and we make a lot of money off your children. Your children from cradle to grave. All we do is make money off of them. Your cattle, your goyim, the human cattle. Mazel tov.
It's interesting.
Well, okay, so I got to stop it there for a second.
Mazel tov.
Come on, Popeye. Mazel tov, dude.
No, do you want me to call it what it is?
Well,
it's scripted BS is what it is. This guy, this is all crap, dude.
Get out of here.
This is almost like the ADL and APAC got together and they wrote this guy's copy and said, "Here, take this on your next interview or two and just read this." It was talking point after. Can I tell you something? My grandmother was Jewish. She was in a concentration camp.
Did she ever call herself Jew?
She never called herself the Jew. She never referred to herself in the third person or as like in the third person as a separate
here's the
group.
Jew. The Jew just showed up. Yeah.
Grandma didn't talk like that. In fact, anybody of the Jewish faith that I know does not describe themselves as the Jew.
Nope.
This is complete crap. This is the kind of stuff that's put out there to muddy the waters so that when you actually do talk about Benjamin Netanyahu or Israel or anything else, they say, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic."
Yeah, or they link it. And by the way, they also played this clip on Freaky Friday. So, they're absolute conspiracy theorist nutbags, even though, we're here saying, hey, look, this is how they divide and conquer, is they go ahead and they do these scripted little interviews and all this kind of stuff to make it show like there's some sort of divisive, they do it on purpose. And then they say, well, it's the Jew. But is it? course not. You know, it has nothing to do with
this panders to the people that actually buy into that.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. This is to feed that, because that's what they want, because that's the kind of stuff that they do. Okay. There have been networks out there, they shall remain nameless, that did things like this. And we all called it years ago and said that although every single one of them may not be involved in it, there has to be at least one or two people at some level that are paid by somebody and doing this on purpose. Because you see time and time again, whenever there's legitimate criticism of Israel, suddenly pops up the Jews did this and the Jews did that, and that's put out there to muddy the water, so that way you can't say, hey, you know, the Israeli government murdering people in Gaza and claiming, you know, Holocaust. Yeah, I have a problem with that. Don't use what my grandmother and her generation.
Oh, you better cut it out, you anti-Semitic prick.
Oh, I know. I'm a Jew hater. I've been told that I'm a Jew hater, and I'm like, technically, I have Jewish blood in me according to Jewish right. So, could you explain to me how I hate myself? Could you explain how I have friends that are
they have drugs for
Jewish,
that.
like they're actually full on religious Jews, and they
Big
don't
Pharma.
agree. They don't agree with what Israel's doing. I guess they hate Jews too.
Big Pharma can fix that.
It's stupid. It's
JD?
look, it's retarded divisiveness.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, I totally agree with what Popeye's saying, because what you're seeing is an actual demonstration of early Delphi technique in the extreme polarization. They're showing you what the two far ends of the spectrum are, right? And it's the whole thing is a play, and then they get to use that play over and over again in clips like the one we just shown, to use that as a tool, so that anybody brings up the, I don't know, the middle of the road stuff, or the stuff that we should be concerned about, like Popeye's mentioning, Netanyahu being one of them, or one of the topics that I'm interested in is this whole kosher tax thing, kind of the middle of the road stuff, but immediately you can call out this whole background behind a clip like that and say, you know, oh, look, there's an anti-Semitic group out there and they believe this and they're crazy. And then, you know, you have a pigeonhole to put anybody else who asks a question right into squarely. There are people who would, you know, listen to a clip like that. And now we're in the demographic mode, which is what they like, the divide, conquer, bam. There you go.
Yeah, really.
It fits that, it literally, and then they can use it to, and they can turn around and use that to demonize the alternative media or anybody that criticizes Israel. And they'll have people like Mark Potok come on and be like, look, and he's an anti-Jew hater. He listened to a podcast on YouTube once and it was about the Jews. I mean, that's why that stuff is put out there. It really is. And those people, and Mark Potok, the Southern Poverty Law Center, like, they don't have ties to these very same groups that we've been mentioning. Sure.
No. And you know what? Here's the interesting thing about it, you know, is like you look at the beginning, or the beginnings of the second nation state of Israel, and you see all the news media 50 years before that, you know, all sending money to these Rothschild charities and all this kind of stuff, all talking about the suffering of the 6 million Jews from the early 1900s up to, I think, 1938. That's all you see in all these major publications. Boom, 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 this huge campaign. And isn't it interesting, you know, that now you have one of the major launch pads for, you know, the Rothschild banking syndicate to launch wars covertly. And, you know, look at all the, you know, everybody knows about the Mossad. Mossad's like one of the top, quote, intelligence agencies. It's actually, you know, let's call it for what it is. It's a, quote, terrorist organization. That's what it is.
Netanyahu's using the same rhetoric right now, and I know we're not very woo right, you know, but he's using this exact same rhetoric against Iran that he used in like 2002 against Iraq. I mean, almost verbatim, exactly the same. We can tell where this whole thing is going to go. Anybody who's been paying attention to Wesley Clark knows that that's the direction this whole thing is going in. And then you got Tom Cotton. Well,
I just want to point out he's not really. He's
Hi,
not.
man. Why are you back?
He's an American. He's an American Jew. He's not.
Hey, man, I got over $1 million from ADL last year.
He's not an Israeli Jew. I'm just look. Let's just. Can I just point out the obvious? I think religious wars, as in general, are all retarded. Okay,
Nope.
All these different religions are fighting and killing each other over whose version of the same thing is better. Think about that for a minute. No, my version of it's better. No, my version of it's better. I'm going to kill you because my version of it's better. Perhaps you're all not seeing something. It's all the same thing. You know
Right,
what
but
Allah,
you have to.
you know what
You still
Allah
have
means,
to
right?
recognize that we were there telling them that they were going to be blessed if they believed that their whatever thing, back when we were trying to get them to fight Russia and things like that. I mean,
Oh, no. I know.
we
no,
feisted these people up. That's why I'm so.
politics.
I don't know.
That's
I know it's
politics.
politics, but it's
No, that's
it's
different. But
using
see how
religion
that's-
as a tool.
Oh no, totally. And again, it's because religious myth, because people buy into the religious myth. If they look, that's a whole side issue. The point is, I just think, like, as a base, I think it's retarded that people kill each other. Mankind kills each other because we can't decide whose version of the same thing is better, and then we wonder why aliens won't talk to us.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
There's your woo.
Well, because it would ruin the whole reality TV show that's going on that called, As the Earth Turns.
Dude, can you imagine? I guarantee you that we're on like multiple channels across the universe.
Absolutely. Well, if you go by like the original blueprint, in that, biblically speaking or extra biblically speaking, that we were angelic interdimensional beings before we were cast out and down to the earth, to this hole, then you can basically watch it anytime you want. And why would you want to mess with your favorite intergalactic TV drama? I wouldn't want to. It's
Seriously.
like when Dallas got canceled or went off.
They'd be pissed
Everybody's
off. They'd be like, "What are you kidding? You let the Earthlings solve their problems. We have no more entertainment in the universe." Seriously.
I mean, this is, dude, look at how chaotic this is. I mean, this is crazy. You got to wonder, if maybe like the Van Allen belt and all that kind of stuff is that kind of veil that, or, maybe that's what they are trying to pierce with CERN.
It's the
Is
fence.
that veil, that protection barrier that maybe the creator put up to be like, that flashing sign,
We're
avoid
the
the planet
universal
Earth
zoo.
at all cost.
We're the universal zoo, Joe, and we're like the lions trying to break free of the cage in the universal zoo.
Yeah, well, I don't care what it is, dude. It's just like, look, there's some things that we should be messing with. There's things that we shouldn't be messing with. That's probably one of them.
Are you concerned about the scientists over there?
Yeah, be careful what you wish for. That's what I have to say to the scientists.
Dude, all I
Oh,
gotta
yes,
say is-
today we're going to create black holes and transfer gravity from one dimension to the other. And nothing could possibly go wrong with that, of course,
All you could do is watch like any science fiction movie, read a science fiction novel.
Yeah, I mean, it is really scary what they're actually thinking about doing. I mean, fundamentally,
Dude, like, let's open a doorway to another dimension. And it's like, can I be the first one to point out that in movies this never turns out well? Usually it brings like some sort of demonic entity, or like in the case of what was it, that movie Battleship? They sent out a signal into outer. They found a planet in like some other galaxy or whatnot that was like Earth. It was in the what do they call that? Where do they say we live? The I forget that little nickname NASA has for the area that the Earth is in. It's like the perfect,
like the habitable zone or whatever.
Yeah, I forget.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Goldilocks zone. That's it.
Goldilocks
Kev.
zone.
So they said that like the premise of the movie is that they find this planet in like another galaxy in this Goldilocks zone, and they beam a message to it from us like, "Hey, we're here." And after they beam it, people are like, maybe that wasn't a good idea. And then in come these invading species and attack us. Yeah. Well done. I'm just saying, like, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to open a door and be like, "Hey, we're humans. We're here."
wonder if does he think it follows the same storyline as The Contact, like where sometime in the past we found we were given the plans on how to make CERN, you know what I mean? And then we set out 40 years ago. Because these guys really genuinely don't know what they're doing, right?
Well,
so they
JD,
really essentially...
You can see in some of the Egyptian hieroglyphs, it's quite blatantly obvious when you compare it to the pictures of the atoms smashing. It looks exactly the same, and it's almost as if, and the way Anthony Patch put it was, they had a spiritual way of achieving this, whereas we're trying to do exactly the same thing, only on a technological basis.
More like they had the capacity to tap into certain frequencies and all that kind of stuff. That's all hidden from us now. So like the Tower of Babel and the Great Pyramids, all that the sacred construction. There was a reason for all that, and why it had to be so precise and why they were built where they were. There was a knowledge there.
Stop
that
it. There's no
doesn't
knowledge.
exist now.
That was
And let me tell you,
happenstance,
so
Joe.
now we got to do it the stupid way, right? Now we got to start smashing atoms and protons and all this stuff to do it. God only knows what
Joe,
we're
stop
going to do
it.
to ourselves.
Stop it. They didn't have any super technology, and they built those pyramids with ramps of stone that were miles long, but you can't find any evidence of. I'm sorry. I can't even say it with a straight face. I can't.
Before we get into the kosher thing with JD, I got to find this story, and I'll tell it real quick after the break. It has to do with World War II and the development of the bomb. And it's funny because this is the kind of technology. This is like it kind of sets up where their mindset was.
CERN is similar to that because that was a great leap in physics, and we really are at a great leap again because we could be basically ripping up everything we know very, very soon and having to start again. To be quite honest with you, I think that's probably more likely the case because I don't think they have a clue what is going on out there.
Dude, they thought they were going to destroy the planet when they ignited the bomb out in New Mexico.
And they didn't
were like,
care.
F it, we're just going to hit the red button anyway. Boop. I mean, these are the people that we, like the mad scientists in the movies on USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shear from when we were children, are now actually scientists. That's just lovely. I hear the break sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. 3 quick short minutes. We'll be back Freaky Friday. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
Welcome back to the second segment of tonight's Freaky Friday right here on www.truthfrequencyradio.com. Joined tonight by a right good woo crew indeed. I've got JD Moore, Marty, Popeye and Joe Joseph. And as has been the way just lately, the conversation again has gone on to CERN. Now, it's all pretty cool when we're thinking about punching holes in the veil, blowing holes in the Van Allen radiation belt. But say we are actually piercing holes and taking a look into other dimensions, guys. Have we actually sat and considered what the consequences might be of gravity leakage into that other universe and of light, which is that carries so much information? What consequences might we be having on the actual other side, JD?
Well, I think that's such a great question, Kevin, man. My whole question is still comes back to this idea of gravity, for which I'm pretty sure we don't have a force carrier for. And I know that everybody, for the most part, understands physics laws, like, you have energy and it doesn't really get created or destroyed. But so let's say we're going to open up this hole, and we're assuming then off the top that it's going to be a vacuumous hole because we're expecting some of our gravity to escape to it. Is that going to affect our gravity here? I mean, I know these are silly, kind of childish questions, but what is the long-term effect on gravity when it moves like that? I just don't get I can't get my mind around what it is that they're actually trying to see happen if they don't actually have the force carrier for gravity figured out in the first place. What is it that they're going to be able to look back and say? That's what I'm saying. They don't have what empirical evidence are they going to look at afterwards and say, well, X went through the whole, B and ended up in tab C, and now we have a rocket ship. Well, you don't know what X is, so how in the hell are you going to tell me that that's what happened? Which tells me that everything that you guys are doing is not that.
I think
unless they
tie
send somebody
gravity to the Higgs field, because they basically say that the Higgs field is what gives particles their mass. Some particles pass through it without gaining any mass at all. They don't slow down, whereas other ones, they do slow down. So I'm thinking that they're going to tie this Higgs field to gravity somehow. And even then, this Higgs field is still theoretical, despite the discovery of the theoretical Higgs boson.
What happened if they actually did rip open a portal?
That's what I'm saying. What happens to the other
Popeye and I'd
side?
jump right in. We'd be like, yeah, let's go get him.
Yeah, seriously, like what would happen? Like have they thought? I mean, these are the same people, by the way, that like they drill for oil over perfectly clean aquifers and swear to God there won't be any leaks. But when there is a catastrophic leak, as there always is, they don't have any contingency plans for it. So just keep that in mind. These are the same people ripping holes in the space-time continuum. Nice thought.
Mm-hmm. Same people
Lovely.
that told you that 9 out of 10 doctors appreciated the Charleston brand of cigarettes more than Marlboros or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
Same guys.
677 doctors.
That's right.
Proved the
9 out of
tobacco and Lucky Strike. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Less irritated on the lungs.
That's right.
9 out of 10 doctors agree that Lucky Strike is the cigarette for you. So just remember.
And you know
Yeah.
why the military-industrial complex are so keen to see places like CERN and the RIC doing well? It's so that they can achieve the ultimate in weaponry. We were talking about the bomb just earlier, Joe, and I believe you've got a story about that.
Yes.
But surely the technological age for the New World Order would be antimatter weapons. That would surely that'd be the thing.
Could you imagine, man? I mean, it'd be Star Trek, big time.
Well, they are trying to discover dark energy, antimatter, so why not?
Well, and I guess that, their thing is, nothing comes without risk. But this goes back to 1945, 46-ish. This is a story called The Demon Core. And it says, when an atom undergoes fission, it usually splits into two smaller atoms. This is extremetech.com. It says, along with a few leftover neutrons that are emitted as waste. These waste neutrons can then hit nearby atoms and cause them to fission. When a fission-type nuclear bomb explodes, what actually is happening is that the uranium or plutonium fuel is going supercritical. This essentially means that there are enough fissioned or split atoms pumping out enough neutrons to keep a chain reaction going. And this requires a certain mass and volume of fissile material, and that's the material's critical mass. And one of the Manhattan Project's core areas of research was discovering the exact controlled conditions that can take a normal radioactive lump of uranium or plutonium and make it supercritical, thus creating an atom bomb. Now, while you would think that such research into supercriticality would be carried out with chemists and physicists safely behind like a half a mile of rock and lead and long mechanical armatures manipulating the fissile material. No. Our boys at Los Alamos were a little more, I guess you could say, blasé. So to discover the critical mass of the plutonium cores that would be used in the Trinity test, Los Alamos researcher Louis Slotin devised a procedure that would later be called, by Richard Feynman, no less, tickling the dragon's tail. And this technique involved Slotin, often while wearing blue jeans and cowboy boots, apparently lowering a beryllium hemisphere over the plutonium core. Now, beryllium is a neutron deflector, so it's close enough to the core. The closer it gets to the core, it bounces enough neutrons back into the plutonium, triggering supercriticality. While Slotin lowered the beryllium hemisphere with a thumb hole in the top, all that prevented it from completely covering the core was the blade of a flathead screwdriver. And so he tickled the dragon's tail almost a dozen times before that fateful day, May 21st, 1946, when the screwdriver finally slipped, causing the plutonium core to go supercritical and emit a massive burst of neutron radiation. Slotin reported a flash of blue light and a wave of heat across his skin before he managed to flip the beryllium reflector onto the floor half a second later, stopping the chain reaction in a matter of seconds. But it was too late, though. He received around 1,000 rad of radiation and died 9 days later of acute radiation syndrome. I mean, how crazy is that, dude? And guys, a screwdriver was all that he had to shim that beryllium sphere.
Does not surprise me with these lunatics. It really doesn't.
But it's human arrogance. There's nothing to this stuff, man. Come on, it's like an M80.
Like, what was he doing in his garage?
No, it was at Los Alamos.
That's my point.
Yeah, but I mean, wow. Who knew that you could, like, build a neutron bomb with a snap-on tool set?
Bro, these are the same people that, like, didn't they say they left a hot dog wrapper inside of CERN or something in 81? And that's what made it break just now, recently, or something?
I'm just now catching my breath from the, and then came that fateful day line. I just, honestly, from about that point forward, I went blank because I was absolutely dying laughing. So I got to catch back up. So he dropped a screwdriver and vaporized himself? Was that what I missed?
No. What happened was it was like a flash of blue light and intense heat, and he was able to get the beryllium sphere off, but not before he got hit with 1,000 rads worth of radiation.
Oh, yeah. That will mess up your weekend.
9 days later of acute radiation poisoning.
Yep. I read about that in a pamphlet once. That's going to mess up your weekend. Seriously.
Douche.
But here's the deal, though, is that I don't know. I'm sure you guys working for the armed services, all of you guys. Heck, I was a DoD contractor. The urge to save some money when you're doing that as a contractor, especially, I don't know. We kind of you fudge things sometimes. You just kind of get by with what you've got in the.
You know what we used to
services
say to
days.
each other?
I would imagine that.
You'd be at like 30,000 feet in an airplane. And you'd look at your friend and be like, this thing was built by the cheapest bidder, right?
Yeah, right. 6,000 moving parts. By
Joe
the
knows what I'm talking
Held
about.
together with duct tape somewhere.
Yeah.
And all kidding aside, probably half of them were held together with duct tape.
100-mile-an-hour tape. That's what it was for.
You'd be surprised what you could do with that stuff.
No doubt.
Man.
But anyway,
So what
it doesn't
about-
surprise me.
what
It
about
doesn't surprise
this,
me at all.
What about this kosher thing, man?
Oh well,
The
I don't want to get pegged here. Let's start off with that. Let's preface this. I don't want to get pegged as the anti-Semitic in the group here, and but we were kind of on the subject earlier, and some of the other woo crew or the other woo shows we've talked about frequency and having an effect on matter and all this kind of stuff. Well, there's this thing that is going on right now, and again, if you go to the Southern Poverty Law Center or ADL or whatever, they're going to tell you that you're an anti-Semitic if you ever talk about this or bring it up. But it is a true thing, and it's I don't know what other word you would call it other than the kosher tax. And I haven't done enough research into this to really understand what the act of making something kosher is. I understand that it has to do with dietary needs of Jewish people, and it may in fact include a blessing, but I know it has to do with like the cleanliness of the place where you're preparing food and things like that, and so on and so forth. But I was kind of startled when I started looking into the amount of products that are affected by this, especially a lot of the ones that aren't really food related, like tinfoil and my laundry soap and stuff like that. So I was looking at all these labels, and I'm seeing the little U, which is a circled, and that's kind of the union of rabbinical. It's like a rabbinical council is kind of the biggest organization here in the United States that does this. And they will admit, that they charge a fee to manufacturers of food and goods to put this particular stamp of approval to make something kosher on their on whatever product it is you're trying to sell. And it's granted that costs the producer very, very little, and then they will say right on the website there that it it comes out to like 65 millionth of a penny, per product. But at the same time, and again, I don't want to come off as crazy here, but I don't think that we've got a super large Jewish population in our nation, right? It's something like 2%. And a lot of those people don't really care about, strict Orthodox dietary needs, as far as I can tell. But all of us are purchasing these products. And what bothers me about it most is that I don't really necessarily understand where the money is going. And I don't necessarily understand how my tinfoil or my laundry detergent can actually be kosher. And if somebody out there can explain that to me, I'm happy to listen. But if this money is being used to, say, I don't know, fund politicians or lobbying for, I don't know, the Israeli initiative, that's something I think everybody should be aware of. And what really bothers me is that once you become aware of it, to try and make a choice against it is really difficult, because almost all the products out there have got some sort of kosher label on them. And again, we're talking a lot about products that, as far as I know, don't have anything to do with kosher dietary needs. So we talk about, the need to pray over food. And I'm not, again, trying to come on the air and say that Jewish people are putting the heebie-jeebies on your foodstuffs. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there is some sort of something going on with our food, and with even this one really got me. My dishpan set that I recently bought, like a cooking set, it's got a kosher mark on it. And that doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? So
I wonder if that means if it's not made with depleted uranium, because they were using that stuff to make like cooking ware and other things. So maybe the kosher mark maybe the
racket.
Maybe the kosher
does
mark
sound
means
like a
It's a
racket.
self-cooking frying pan.
Yeah, well, dude, honestly, all that is a backdoor tax to bring money in for, a government that's being, the money's being funneled obviously to probably the Israeli government or something that supports them in one way, shape, or form via a backdoor group like AIPAC or something. So
what about the actual intent of putting?
That's what I'm
food?
concerned about. Yeah.
We've seen what it can do with water, with the water experiment. So I'm just wondering if there's any aspect of that to it at all.
Anybody? I don't have any information on that. Bob.
We'd have
What
to
do you
look
think?
the symbol up and see if the symbol. I don't know of any occultic.
There's literally
reference to it,
hundreds of
but-
them. Really, and it's all around the world. But the one in the United States is just a U with a circle. But again, there's a lot of other symbols out there. But I just don't know. I guess that's what it comes down to.
Honestly, it just sounds like a backdoor tax. This is just my quick analysis of it. Just hearing about it here right now, sounds like just like a backdoor tax that's levied by certain special interest groups that seem to have their hands very deep into the pockets of power in Washington and D.C. and then they can use that money to fund back, via the back door. Not the government directly, but like programs or things that
they can
support
strong arm these. They can strong arm these governments too, and say, or these corporations by saying, hey, if you don't buy into this, well, then your
it's a backdoor fund
your organization is going to be seen as anti-Semitic, and we wouldn't want that to happen.
Right, and how do you? I mean, you got to pay those people. So this is like
how
they get payroll,
like paying the tribute, the security payment to the
It's
mob.
a fund drive. Yeah. That's what it is.
But so nobody's here concerned about any kind of heebie-jeebies going onto their stuff, though, in terms of intent. And
no, there's enough. There's already enough intent into what they're putting into the food that they wouldn't have to do it with like some weird. I mean, it could be the symbol that they're using could be some weird occultic symbol. I'd have to look at it and see. I mean, I haven't heard anything of that, but it could be. I mean, I wouldn't put it past anything. But honestly, all the other things that they do to the food already, I don't think they'd have to put a symbol on it just the packaging alone. Look at the packaging it's in. Look at the logos and see if there's anything weird in the logos.
Right.
I mean, intent, I totally get it. Like, you could put bad intent into it, but just saying, I don't think, at least in that aspect, there is any of that.
So there's no humans in McDonald's burgers, and there's nothing to see here with the kosher conspiracy.
No, I didn't say that McDonald's wasn't Soylent Green. Okay, I wouldn't touch McDonald's with a 10-foot pole. I don't know what McDonald's is. I don't think science has even figured out.
You don't know
McDonald's.
Dude.
But we brought up the actual human sacrifice and things like that, and we are approaching a bit of a sacrifice period, and it's on the satanic kind of calendar here. That
we're not approaching. We've been in it for like 3 weeks.
Well,
we're in
the
the
19th to the 25th. We're getting the sacrifice preparation, so we have to keep our eyes open for kidnappings, because it's said that they'll hold ceremonies in preparation for the human sacrifice. And then on the 25th, we've got an occult holiday called the Grand Climax, and that obviously centres around sexual rituals and sacrifice of a young woman or girl. And then that all leads up to the big one, the Fire Festival of Walpurgis Night and Beltane, one of the most important nights on the satanic calendar. Blood rituals and human sacrifices take place.
Yeah, the 15th to the 19th. That's when the Boston bombing happened. I went on air that night and I said, "You watch. I guarantee you, they find the guy or guys that did this, and they either kill one or both of them before the end of the 19th." And they did. Now I'm not a fortune teller. It's only because I knew what they were doing. It's once you understand it, you can look at it and be like, okay, there you go. They're going to do this. And when it plays out right as you said, you're like, okay, that's kind of creepy. I'd rather not be right. I'd really rather be wrong. And somebody be like, ha, Papa, you were wrong. I'd eat crow. I would gladly be wrong than be able to accurately predict within 3 or 4 days of something like this what they're doing and how they're going to react to it, and then them actually doing it. I'd rather not be right. You know what I'm saying?
So what you're saying is we're going to have one of these big ones to actually analyse very, very soon, probably.
No. I'm not saying we will. I'm just saying if they're going to do something, this is the time of year that they like to do stuff. I mean,
isn't there a dirty bomb drill coming up in California too?
Well, just remember
this date.
They've actually banned InfoWars from reporting on that.
Drills go live.
Wow.
Okay. And Joe can attest to this. Every major, huge drill like that is always geared that there's what they call a shadow side to it that's actually ready to go live and fully operational the same time. Okay? Always. Every time they have a huge drill like that, those things are geared that there's a shadow side to it that can go fully, and I mean fully operational, like you've seen in other events. So things can happen. I'm not saying they will, because that would be fear-mongering, but it is that time of year. And usually the 15th through the 19th, like Abraham Lincoln's assassination, this whole time period in April, the sinking of the Titanic, Abraham Lincoln's assassination, You have the Oklahoma City bombing, Waco, the Boston bombing, but I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I read a couple weeks ago on one of the Freaky Fridays, I read a whole list of all the things that took place around this time period for the season of sacrifice. Mark Passio and I did a whole show about it last year. I'll have to air it again as one of my rebroads while I'm on the road. It's really a creepy time of year, and they're really into it, which is really messed up.
About these 4 days? What is it about these 4 days?
Well, this whole time period it's around. You remember, a lot of this stuff that they believe in goes back to ancient cultures. This is the springtime. A lot of these ancient cultures thought that they had to give sacrifices to these ancient gods in order to have fertile lands and stuff like that. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from. Not all of it, but a lot of, like, the sacrificial part. You got to understand something. Like, Satanism is not... There's the Satanism where people run around in hoods and they sacrifice people in the woods and stuff. There's that. But that's just an aspect of it. That's like a hardcore, like, aspect of it, like a wing of it. But true Satanism itself, the idea of Satanism actually isn't like worshiping some dude with horns and a tail and a pitchfork. The true idea of Satanism, which is what they get people to actually buy into, is the love of oneself only, the love of the self only. Not caring about anybody else around you, not even your own family, not your friends, anyone, humanity, which is what they've done to society. They've got society chasing things. People are in love with things. They're in love with their phone. They're in love with their SUV. They're in love with their flat screen TV or their PS4 or their Xbox. They're not in love with, maybe intelligent, beautiful creatures they know throughout the planet, other fellow human beings. They're not in love with those, whether it be a man or a woman. No. Why have a relationship with a fellow human when you can love an object that will give you no love whatsoever and probably give you cancer in the case of a cell phone? Okay? I mean, literally, that's what true Satanism is. And then you have the aspect of them stabbing and killing and all the sacrifices. But a lot of these sacrifices go back to these ancient cultures that worshipped gods that they thought they had to sacrifice to in order to have fertile lands and things.
Well, Popeye, you're on about us nowadays worshipping things. And it was Joe that sent me this video last night. And talk about the ultimate and creepy. And, we talk about how we're moving towards this robotic age, transhumanism, stuff like that. We'll get this for one of the latest gadgets from Amazon. Take a listen.
It's arrived from Amazon. I didn't know what it was. What is it?
You'll see.
Is it for me?
It's for everyone. It's called Amazon Echo.
How's it going?
I'm just finishing up right now.
Is it on?
Oh, it's always on.
Can it hear me right now?
Nope. It only hears you when you use the wake word we chose. Alexa.
Well, what does it do?
Alexa, what do you do?
I can play music, answer questions, get the news and weather, create to-do lists, and much more.
Awesome. Huh. Alexa, play rock music.
Rock music.
Alexa, stop.
Wait, I want to try. Alexa, what time is it?
The time is 3:27.
You actually don't have to yell at it, okay? It uses far-field technology, so it can hear you from anywhere in the room.
So it can just hear you anywhere?
Yes. Well, everyone can hear you anyway.
Oh. Is that where we're going to put it?
I was thinking of putting it there, but it works anywhere.
Echo is pretty neat because it knows all sorts of things.
It's on
all you have to do is ask.
Alexa, how tall is Mount Everest?
Mount Everest's height is 29,029 feet, 8,848 meters.
How can it know so much? It's so small.
Well, it updates using the cloud. That's also how it gets its answers.
You just read that off the box, huh?
Dad really likes that Echo just plugs in, so we never have to charge it. Plus, Echo's really good at keeping track of things like shopping and to-do lists.
Paper. Alexa, add wrapping paper to the shopping list.
I've put wrapping paper on your shopping list.
Alexa, how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon?
1 tablespoon equals 3 teaspoons.
Okay. Alexa, set a timer for 8 minutes.
8 minutes, starting now.
Dad's not a morning person, but Echo definitely helps him wake up.
Alexa, alarm off.
You gotta get up.
It's Saturday.
Alexa, what day is it?
Today is Thursday, November 13th.
I'm up. Alexa, give me my flash news briefing.
Here's your flash briefing.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh.
What did the dog say after a long day of work?
What?
Today was rough. Get it? Get it?
Yeah, I get it.
Another one. Alexa, tell me another joke.
I wondered why the baseball was getting bigger, and then it hit me.
Sometimes Echo helps out when you least expect it.
Hey, Dad, how do you spell cantaloupe?
Cantaloupe. C-A-N-T... Alexa, how do you spell cantaloupe?
Cantaloupe is spelled C-A-N-T-A-L-O-U-P-E.
Good job.
Echo loves to play music and knows a lot of songs, and they always sound great.
Alexa, play my dance mix.
The playlist dance.
Alexa, stop.
Alexa, define annoying.
The term annoying means one, causing irritation or annoyance.
Example, my brother.
And with the companion app, you can access Echo from anywhere. With everything Echo can do, it's really become part of the family.
To experience Echo, go to Amazon.com/Echo.
It's become part of the family. I'm telling you, if you actually watch this advert, guys, it totally demeans the male role. The guy's sitting there with a watch on, but no, the woman has to ask a damn robot what the time is. He says it's Saturday. What does she have to do? She has to question if he's even right about what day it is. He can't spell a word. The machine takes over. The robot, part of the family, it's going to be replacing us soon, Popeye.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio. Freaky Friday, hour number 2 here. Truth Frequency, truthfrequencyradio.com. Make sure you go check out all the archives, by the way, for all the great hosts that come on here every Friday. Go over to Truth Frequency Radio. Go to I think it's labeled podcasts. If you click on the section, you can go and look at all the archives for the hosts here. You know what? A subscription to the network isn't that expensive. A couple bucks. I think it works out to be like $2 or $3 a month. It's worth it because then you have access to not only, like, say you're one of my listeners, right? And you're tuning in and you listen on Freaky Friday, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've never heard JD. He's a great host. Or, I want to go listen to all the Kev shows now or all Joe stuff. Well, if you have access, you can get all the high quality stuff. It's only $2-3 a month. It's totally worth it, and it supports the network, and it helps Chris and Cherie give us a platform to talk to all of you here. So,
I used to be a subscriber, Popeye. Chris and Cherie, they even went back and tracked down my old record. I was a listener, but it's totally brilliant for the price. The fact that you get that high quality download archive, it's invaluable because everyone's busy, so it's hard to tune in live. So the fact you can get that podcast, put on your iPhone, whatever you listen to, absolutely brilliant. And for the price, it's less than 10 cigarettes, man.
And none of us make any. We all do this voluntarily. None of us make any money doing this. So it's hard to not make money doing this and have a professional platform like we do. And Chris and Cherie offer that, but it costs money, and they don't even ask us to try to get people to subscribe. I just tell people, look, it makes sense. You want to help out. I think it ends up being like maybe somebody put in the chat. I think it's like $40 a year. I mean, for $40, think about what you'd waste $40 on in a week, right? For $40, you're literally supporting the work of all the hosts here for $40. So I'm just saying, I didn't mean to turn it into a friggin' infomercial. I just thought I'd throw that out there. So anyway, where would you guys like to go on the slippery slide that is wooery?
Oh well. Kev, you wanted to talk about time travel, didn't you?
Well, we dug up that clip, didn't we, from the Time Institute? Will we start with that?
I had no idea that this place even existed until you brought it up. And it's just like, okay, what's this? A time travel commercial?
I'm actually planning one night to trim down Freeman's interview with this guy. It's Dr. David Lewis Anderson. The interview's up on YouTube. It's about an hour and 17 minutes long. But I think it's that important and that interesting, just for people even to stimulate some thought and discussion, that it's worth putting on just for a show on its own one night. But the actual guy in person, Dr. David Lewis Anderson, a leading physicist, and he's got a bit of a advert, shall we say. For
AndersonInstitute.com.
Is that the website?
Yeah, AndersonInstitute.com.
Well, here's the actual promo and the kind of teaser that he gives to a longer DVD that is also available for free on YouTube. But take a listen to this. Just coming.
Well, obviously, that could be kind of annoying when it gives you a long answer like that. So what's
I'm sure
cool
it's
about
just
Alexa
coming.
is you could actually interrupt it halfway
Imagine
through its
traveling
sentence. So
in
I'll ask the
time.
same question.
Some process that
Alexa,
let you go
how tall
backward
is
in
Kobe
time
Bryant?
to witness the events that change history
Kobe
or
Bryant's
into the
height is
future.
6
Alexa, how
feet.
tall is Michael Jordan?
Nice.
Michael
Now there's something
Jordan's
wrong with
height
that
is 6
clip,
feet
Joe.
and 6
Oh.
Don't
There's something wrong with the
man.
clip?
Hang on.
Here. Let me see if I can do it. What is time?
Imagine traveling in time. Some process that would let you go backward in time to witness the events that change history or into the future to see if mankind survives. And then to return to the present with the knowledge of what will happen tomorrow. The process is intriguing, even mind-boggling, but the science is more real than imagined. The quest for the technology permitting time control is now underway. Private and government investment in this area of research is on the rise and fueling a race leading to discoveries that will change our world and our very sense of reality in ways difficult to even begin to comprehend. This science is real. The advances underway are truly exciting and the possibilities are endless. Join us now as we explore the possibilities of time travel and begin our exciting journeys into time. Hello, I am Dr. David Anderson, and I thank you for joining us as we prepare to take some exciting first steps as we journey into time. Perhaps the best place to begin is at the beginning, with a definition of time. What is time? What is it that clocks are measuring? They seem to measure some unseen medium that continues on with a constant and never-stopping force. In fact, time is often thought of as a river that flows in one direction and slows for no one, always sweeping everything and everyone along with it. We certainly experience the passing of time. We are born and live our lives feeling as though we are constantly being pushed and pulled by this unseen phenomenon. So then, what is time? Well, one thing I do know is that time is a very curious thing. Ask anyone on the street if they know what time is. They are sure to answer yes. But then, ask them to explain it to you, and they will almost certainly be at a loss for words. Think about it. Something that dominates our language, our everyday thoughts in life, but yet we can't explain it, nor do we understand it. Perhaps in some ways, we don't want to understand time. People do often talk about time in a very negative way, perhaps because in some ways it is linked to our own mortality. A very popular quote about time from the science fiction movie Star Trek Generations is, "Time is the fire in which we burn." Another is the famous quote from Hector Berlioz, a great 19th century composer who said, "Time is a great teacher, but unfortunately it kills all its pupils." But this still doesn't explain what time is. We seem to have a belief that time exists independent of us. But is it perhaps only something that is measured only by our minds and bodies' perceptions? We all seem to have biological clocks inside of us that work on a set schedule, and our minds perceive the passing of time in many different ways, even for people experiencing the exact same events. Time also seems to vary with culture. For instance, in the language of the Navajo, there is no past, present, and future tense like those of many languages. Events are talked about with regard to their quality of happening rather than their temporal quality. Is it possible, then, that time may not really exist, but is just an illusion
Okay, so that was it. Well, there's a lively conversation going on in the background here. Okay, Popeye, go ahead.
I just think the guy's talking in circles. He didn't answer a single question.
It's an infomercial, dude.
Well, I mean,
he's not supposed to.
He's trying to sell you something.
If it's just a plain, if that's what I called it, I said this is crap. It's like garbage. Like if you're gonna present it, then don't present it like
You've totally just crapped on all of Kev's stuff for tonight. I just want
no, not at all, man. Because
I'm not saying time travel is not possible. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this guy, the way he's explaining it, he's talking in circles. He's like,
I was going to say, don't shatter Kev's hopes and dreams.
No,
will you?
Listen to me. You're talking to the person that talks about interdimensional space travel and everything else, and that quantum physics and time is actually.
He and Marty are going to be the second coming of Bill and Ted.
You're like, time is not linear. Okay, I get it. Like, the past, the future, and the present are all happening at the same time. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I get it. I'm totally down with time travel. I'm not picking on time travel. So. Everybody out there, oh my God, Popeye's a time traveler hater. Chris is going to get emails now. Take Popeye off TFR. He hates time travelers. No, I don't hate time traveling or time travelers. All I'm saying is this particular guy sucks at presenting things. Okay, maybe it's because I do presenting twice a week, and
I'm anti-phonographic.
No, I'm anti-salesman. This guy, he was like. Time is a weird thing. He's like, what I can tell you is that blah blah blah. He didn't even get into a description of quantum physics or this that time is.
Give him 2 minutes, dude.
Bro, he could have at least set it up. He was talking. Just go back and listen again.
I'll drop the link in the chat for the full interview because I think there's even one on Coast where he does 2 hours odd, and it is absolutely fascinating. And this is the thing, I couldn't disprove Popeye. I couldn't find a hole in his story. I tracked down this Time Institute, and what really caught my attention, and of course it could have been put in there to hook people, is the fact that when Freeman was asking him about some stuff, he would go so far, and then he would actually announce again that some of the projects were DARPA funded. And as soon as you say DARPA, well, my ears picked up. And that's ever since I first heard that, I couldn't find anyone that totally could disprove what he was saying.
Well, maybe then when he was on Coast, he did a better job of presenting himself. I'm just saying he sucked in that audio clip that you played. He was horrible at presenting his point.
Because he did it in the style of Mr. Rogers. If he did it in something a little more animated, perhaps, he might have got the.
But listen, if you listen to when he's talking, he doesn't actually.
Spera of physics. I know it ain't over till it's over.
But it's not even that. He doesn't have a valid. Like I would get if you set up the point and then I do that. Like I'll set something up and then I'll go off on a tangent for 5 minutes. I get it. That's fine. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
It was just he set up his own question and then didn't answer it. He walked away from it and went on to some rant about time and ancient cultures, and it was like, are you going to answer your own question?
Question then, if let's just say, for example, they have this technology and it exists already, then why are we here? Just asking, why are we here?
Did you ever see that Fox show? And I know Kev probably watched it. Oh, now I can't remember the name of it. It was on a couple of years ago. Fringe. And they had these guys, they were I think they called them the observers. And they were humans from the future. And they came back in time to kind of observe things. And they would come back in time and keep an eye on things and make sure everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. And interestingly enough, they dressed like the Men in Black. And I talked to Nick Redfern about this. I got to get in touch with him and get him on here for Freaky Fridays with us one night. But anyway, that show talked about time travel and had some interesting concepts, and a lot of the other stuff that it talked about in that show was a lot of the stuff that we talked about. So I'm sure, Kev, you've probably watched Fringe about 1,000 times. But
it's actually one of my favourite shows, and that's why I was actually thinking about this CERN, what effect we might have on the other side, because we've seen how the two universes in the parallel universes were interlinked, Popeye. And you couldn't really do something punching a hole into one side without it affecting the other.
No, that was when you brought that up earlier when you were talking about like oxygen leakage and gravity leakage. You made me think of all the stuff that happened in that show.
Because we basically caused the blight on the other side, and the blight in this fictional show by J.J. Abrams, who in my opinion is CIA connected to the max. This was because they had actually gone over there.
Is that the same J.J. Abrams that the last Star Trek had Nibiru in it?
Yeah, exactly. But listen, guys, I've dug up just a little clip here. It's a piece of the interview with Freeman. Now, Popeye, I just want your take on this to see if he sounds any more, I don't know, understandable here, or if he can sell you more on the idea. So take a listen to this.
This is mental. That consciousness is actually manufacturing reality. Quantum physics shows us that, particles not there until we look at it. Is this a connection with time travel? Would this affect time travel? Is it in our minds?
I think two parts of that. Absolutely, yes. The world truly is what we label reality. Most scientists today would agree it's a fabrication of our minds. We do know, and it's interesting that it's taken this long, over millennia, for the scientific community to show so many people that in the super colliders and particle accelerators, we can see matter transform into energy back into matter. We see through quantum mechanics and physics that the world truly is a dynamic web of information and energy. And clearly, that's something that many sacred religions have held near and dear for millennia. And it's kind of interesting to see the scientific world converging with what many people would call ancient wisdom. But the short answer is yes. Also, there's clearly very possible to move forward and backwards in time, whether it be information or matter or living organisms.
Well, I have to jump on that one. Have we sent things back in time?
The short answer is absolutely yes. I could stop there, but that probably would be unacceptable for your listeners. Actually, there are 5 countries today. Japan is quite actively doing work sending information forward and backwards in time. Russia has been involved in this since the 1960s. We know that because we've seen actually recently the U.S. government was funding a project through Princeton University and Dr. Lejun Wang that actually where he demonstrated the ability to send information faster than light, essentially backwards in time. This is work Russia was doing back in the 1960s, and Dr. Wang built incredibly on top of that and spread the word even further. But Russia is an organization. The United States, we have S4, we have the Anderson Institute, doing work, and we also have the University of Connecticut and Dr. Mallet, who's campaigning very aggressively to get into the game. We're working with South Korea, governments and agencies there, and India. Well, India is just leaving the rest of the world in the dust when it comes to time control technology work.
Well, fantastic. We're coming up on the break right now. I'd love to pick it up when we get to the other side on the idea of the religion aspect and how some of these nations are all right with.
So there you go, Popeye. Did he sound a bit more knowledgeable just with that little snippet?
No, I didn't mean that he didn't sound
please
knowledgeable.
Don't think I'm challenging you.
No,
Popeye.
I know.
Like I say, I haven't been able to prove or disprove him. I just don't want people thinking that we're arguing over this. It's just, I really want somebody to look at this as well.
We can, first of all, we can have civilized debate over this.
No, we can't.
Only off air do we fight like biatches.
Right, exactly. I'm not going to get all uppity. And number 2, you can anytime you feel like challenging me, that's fine. So I don't care. I actually encourage confrontation. I don't know, maybe I enjoy it a little bit too much, but I'm not poo-pooing this guy's knowledge level. I'm saying the way he presented it in the first video is drastically different than the way he presented it in the. See, he was being himself and he was just doing an interview and talking. In the first clip, he was selling something and he was not even, going around the bush. He was like, taking the scenic route around the bush via 40 miles out of the way. Really, it's ridiculous. So I'm not criticizing the guy. I agree. He actually sounds more valid in the second clip. I think he sounds more natural and better in the second clip.
And I had to just randomly pick apart there, Popeye, because it's 1 hour and 17 minutes. I dropped it in the chat room, and that was just I found a question from Freeman, quantum physics. I thought that'll do us nicely. But I urge everyone to listen to that.
As long as the guy if and I have to listen to the whole interview to give it a fair opinion, but at least I will admit he does sound like he has a better presentation of the facts or whatever on Freeman's show. That being said, I'm not poo-pooing time travel by any means. I'm just saying if we're going to look into this, we can't, you can't have someone present something like that. You have to listen to the way people are presenting things and talking to you. You can tell if someone respects you or thinks you're intelligent by the way they speak to you.
And did you notice how he actually mentioned there specifically particle colliders?
Yeah.
That it's CERN that's got me thinking about all this. And then even today, I found an article, and the headline is, "Would you travel back in time to kill Hitler? Men are more likely to say yes to stop World War II, according to research." So some money well spent on a study has shown that 6,100 people were asked what they would travel back to do, and whether they would travel back to kill a young Adolf Hitler. While men and women both calculated the consequences of their decision and computed how many lives might be saved, females found it harder to commit murder and were more likely to let Hitler off the hook. So that got me thinking, guys. And I'll start with you, JD. If we could time travel, where would you go? What would you do?
Well, that's the ultimate
that's a
question.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate question, isn't it? I mean, obviously, the first answers everybody goes to, you got to go back in time, get some sort of sporting betting book, and come back in the future and make a bunch of money, right? A la Hot Tub Time Machine or whatever. Try and take over the world that way. Oh, man. Put me on the spot, Kevin. Where would I go?
Honestly, I'd love to.
Honestly, dude, I would probably not go that far back. I'd probably only go back maybe a couple hundred years because I like medicine and cleanliness and things like that, and that would even be a stretch to go back that far. I don't know. I don't know. Pass. I don't know where I would go, especially because I wouldn't want to do like some kind of horrible, selfish thing, which I would be tempted to do on first blush. So I'm going to pass for a minute and try and think through a more appropriate answer because I don't know.
I think Joe would probably go back to the marina and check how the building of the Ark's going on.
No, actually, I would go back. I think I'd kind of do the JD thing. The only thing is I would go back a couple hundred years. I was born in the wrong century. I need to go back a couple hundred years. I'll take my chances with smallpox and the plague and all that. I don't care.
Would you still be in America, though? I mean, where would you be a couple hundred years ago?
No, in America. Thank you. Not America. It's America.
Out west.
Now, I'd be out there, on the frontier, man, making friends. But I would bring my technology with me. And then I would probably break the damn time machine so I couldn't go back. Because I wouldn't want to mess it up too much.
Yeah, same answer. I'm going to do the same thing. Yeah, let's go back to the Old West and then
just
start over.
Break the time machine and then try to call me out as I just, unleash the fury upon you with a semi-automatic pistol.
Pretty much. Yeah, roger that. I like it. That's my answer too. My answer too.
Yeah.
But thinking about this whole CERN thing, you got to once you start understanding that what they're trying to do is dimensional. Is there a separation between the study of time and the study of dimension? Like, where is that fine line being written? Being written by the loco people at CERN.
Isn't time just something we done at the same time, Joe?
Well, it kind of is, but it's also very inherent to who we are. I mean, think about just the nature of language. Like, you have to listen to the whole sentence that I say before you can go back and put it all together to make sense. I mean, we're linear but in the way that we communicate.
Well, I understand that. But, is it something that's unique to humans? Do all creatures, are they limited to time? Of course, you can probably say, I can say, basically beyond a shadow of a doubt that I would say humans are the only ones that are kind of like right now that we know of that are limited to time. That, you hear about a lot of the interdimensional beings and things like that doesn't seem to be a problem for them, a limitation. So I wonder if it's not like the ball and chain, if you would.
Right.
Well, JD brings up a good point. He said that humans are linear in their thinking, meaning like the way we communicate. You read right to left.
Yes.
Things like that. So that means our perception and understanding of things is the same way to a large degree.
Exactly.
And if we perceive things to be like that, and then you understand quantum physics, that you're actually creating your own reality, like the double slit experiment, they realized, they realized that these particles were only appearing when they were measuring for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're creating our own reality, literally. So maybe it's our perception of things that creates this movie that we live in. And as I've said before a bazillion times, if we change our perception of things, then the world around us will actually change for the better or for the worse. It all depends on which way you decide to shift your perception.
That's really deep. That's deep. Because that's got me all thinking, if everybody decided like at the same time that we wanted to speed up, the flow of the spin of the flat Earth around the sun. I mean, the spin of the Earth around the sun. If we could all do that somehow collectively, if everybody just agreed,
there is no if.
There is no if. Mm.
You just do it. Yeah, we'll just all put our collective minds together and collectively spin it faster.
Look at the effects that intentional experiments have had. I mean, I mentioned Coast to Coast earlier on. They often do mass prayers, things like that.
Absolutely, that rain in Texas.
The amount of times that kind of thing is actually, you can measure the results of it. I mean, I can't explain it, but there's something going on.
Well, I think it's the power of intention and then collective intention. And then you kind of have to get back into the big question of who's the observer? Are we the collective observer, or is there a grand architect observer?
What if, see, now I thought about that and I came up with this really profound thought. What if, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I know other people have in different ways, shapes, or forms, so I'm not the first one. Obviously, I just maybe tapped into that collective consciousness. But what if we're the universe experiencing itself? So we are the universe. We are there. There is that grand architect that is observing, and at the same time that it's observing, we're each of us observing in our own right, and that's how it's learning and observing in and of itself. So we are the universe experiencing itself.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Makes more sense to me than a lot of the other theories that are out there.
We are the Borg. There's no stopping us.
Hey, just so you know, the Borg ship was a cube. It was a
cube.
Yeah, it was.
It was a tesseract.
Saturn.
Yeah.
Exactly, and again, that ties back to where? CERN. Boom.
Boom.
Well, it's also a high occult symbol. So, just saying, it's a tesseract is like if you look them up on YouTube, you'll see it. It's the symbolism in the occult world. It's like one of the highest ones. It's the endless mind prison. That's what it's representative of.
It just so happens the supercomputer that they've got at CERN that'll be responsible for maintaining the strangelet, the quark gluon concentrate, is shaped like what? A black cube.
Damn.
I'm sure there's no connection there. Okay.
Just a coincidence.
You're just a coincidence. So we're going to break. Yeah.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Freaky Friday right here on Truth Frequency Radio, truthfrequencyradio.com. And we kind of bounced all over the place, but it bounced all over the place in one sort of general area. And it always kind of goes back to CERN. I don't know how that happened. Well, they are playing with like the electromagnetic field. So perhaps they have like this magnetism towards subject matter and independent media radio shows where they talk about Freaky Friday stuff. I don't know. But anyway, we got KBS crew here as well as JD Moore and Popeye from Down the Rabbit Hole. And so because we were talking about time travel and CERN and opening these gates and all that, do you think that maybe this technology has already been in use by other people at different time periods and or, future, past? Because, Kev, we found a bunch of articles pertaining to a lot of artifacts that have been found. 250 million year old microchip, 300 million year old screw. How in the hell do these things just show up there 300 million years later? And how the hell do we know it's 300 million years old? Just out of curiosity.
Because I think they actually have already travelled back in the time machine. They set the dial to 300 million years, picked up artifacts there, brought them back to the Smithsonian, and labelled them such.
Ah,
No, I don't know, guys. I'm having a laugh. But I definitely believe there's nothing new on this planet. You've got the Dogon. Some of their hieroglyphs are basically talking about quantum science that we deal with.
Could you repeat that? There's nothing what? There's nothing new. Are you saying there's nothing new under the sun?
I would say so, yeah.
Where have I heard that term before? Oh.
Sounds like a Burt Bacharach tune.
Sounds like a few things, some of the things that secret societies have said over the years. Nothing new under the sun. I wonder what that's supposed to mean.
When you look at the Egyptian stories of traveling on boats across the underworld and stuff like that, I mean, when you look at the hieroglyphs as well, I mean, Joe, we looked at the images. These things are arguably the particle colliders that we've got today. And they're talking about traversing. Yeah, they're talking about traveling through wormholes. The kind of things that they're trying to create.
You think the pyramids were like old time CERN?
Why not? In some fashion, why not? Tower of Babel, same thing. A big tower. It didn't necessarily reach up into the heavens. I mean,
well, there's research there's researchers. There's research like what's his name? Joseph Farrell, I think is his name.
Yeah,
he's written books about the pyramids as like power supplies, and like actually they could have probably been used as weapons. I haven't gotten a chance to read his books in full on them. I've heard some of the interviews he's done, and I've read a couple snippets here or there that somebody quoted. But I mean, it's interesting to say the least, and he's not the only one. There's other people that say that too. But what if the pyramids were like some sort of ancient energy device?
Energy weapon.
No doubt.
I fully think that they were definitely I think they could have been weaponized, but I think that was part of the ley line system and part of just providing a general power to people, like a low level. Just like a low-level voltage that everybody could use, much like Tesla did. They've already shown that those things were essentially giant batteries. And just think about what mankind goes through to build just monolithic structures today. What are the biggest structures that we build on the planet today? They're dams, right? They're big things that create power. If you looked at the pyramid and said, okay, we got to build this really big damn thing out here in the desert. Maybe instead of us needing slave labor to do it, maybe if it was actually something that would have provided power for everyone, I could see a lot of people getting behind that and actually saying, oh, hell yeah, we want to build 3 of these things. You know what I mean? So, and they've also shown through satellites that the Nile used to run basically right up along the base of that area, and there's all kinds of stones between there. We know that running water through limestone will create electricity, and I believe that the core structure of the pyramids was made out of a different type of rock than the shielding outside, which is pretty much gone these days. But and they were different colors. They were different colors to begin with too.
I get people could have, and I'm sure there would have been a lot of laborers helping, but I don't think that they built it with huge ramps and wood and rolling those blocks. I honestly think that someone
giant
or something of other earthly origin, whatever you want to call it. I guess you could call it extraterrestrial by definition because it's not of the terrestrial planet.
Giants makes way more sense. I had Xavier Hayes on the other day, and we talked about this, and I thought, if you're going to build a big structure, 30 footers? 30 footers?
Are you sure? Because like the stones at Baalbek, there's in modern day technology, technology couldn't move it. So if technology couldn't move it, you have to think a huge human body. Well, a huge human body or humanoid body would have to be
500 feet tall.
Yeah. So honestly, I think maybe they were using like sound to levitate.
I agree with
that.
If
you want to know the truth,
that could be. See, the thing is you can't have tunnel vision and say, well, it was one way.
No. Because I don't know. I'm just that this is. I'm in the realm of speculation at this point.
Well, you guys think about talking about Anthony Patch from the other day. He was talking about a pre-Diluvian freaking plasma bridge between us and Saturn because Saturn was close. What would that do? That was awesome, by the way. Just put a little segue there. Awesome. But what would that have done to the gravity on? Would that have allowed for people to be? It would have been easier to move stuff if you were 30 feet tall and gravity was a third of what it is now.
Well, 30 feet. It's interesting you say that, JD, because the Bible talks about. That's why I brought up like 500 foot. The Bible talks about giants being that tall on the earth at that time. 500 foot tall.
Okay, so I'm not poo-pooing the idea of giants. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but
But they could have, but they also had technology, though, Popeye.
Well,
That's what I'm
is,
saying.
Don't you think like building this stuff, it's more probable that what they had was some sort of like sound
high tech
technology?
stuff.
Yes, that was using sound as levitation. Using frequency, I should say, to levitate. And I also want to bring up something going back to Joe's favorite. In the days of Noah, around the biblical times. You're right. The biblical times, the walls of Jericho. What if that was actually sound weapons? Some sort of harmonic weapons or
there we go. Little harmonics for you.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of those ancient sites, look like they've been destroyed by some sort of crazy weapon, like nuclear stuff. But a lot of them don't have hints of radiation and don't have any kind of the charring or anything that you might expect from a nuclear blast. Crazy big fractures and 100-ton stones and things like that.
Look at Tesla technology and scalar weapons, and the fact that those are infinitely more devastating and more powerful than nukes. That kind of weapon technology made nukes obsolete a long time ago, and negate the whole possibility of radiation and things like that. But they won't use it because it's the fear mongering scare tactics of a nuke, and just how nasty it is and how horrible it is.
That just goes to show that it's all a scam, though, because if at the heart of the matter is that if we understand that the Asians own all our infrastructure and they're not going to allow anybody to come over here and nuke them, that's what it comes down to. I think that's why we've got all these weapons that are supposed to just like vaporize people, and when it really comes down, maybe all those crazy noises we were hearing off in the distance and over the last couple summers were, them getting tests ready for these crazy scalar low frequency weapons.
Yes, Kev Baker.
No, it's just something I was thinking.
Scalar.
We're thinking about the kind of ancient technology and stuff like this. And, I've had James Swagger on the show a couple of times. He talks about stone circles and stuff like that. And when you think about how all these stone circles have this magical property built into them, that on the summer solstice and the winter solstice, the sunlight, the photons directly from the sun are directed into these stone circles. Now, we know that the likes of Stonehenge and these other circles, they all seem to be lined up magnetically correct, like north-south, north-south. They've all got a polarity to them.
Yeah.
What if they were some kind of ancient particle accelerator, accelerating photons naturally using the energy from the ley lines that may well have been coming from that central hub
like a
over on
almost?
Yeah, over on Giza.
Wow. Yeah, that could very well be. I got 25 facts about the Great Pyramid. This is some pretty interesting stuff. First of all,
where the facts come from, though?
The facts come from. Let's see.
I know. I'm always the guy that pisses in the cornflakes, as Angie says. I know.
No. Let's see. References: The Great Pyramid, A Miracle in Stone, 1973, Joseph A. Seiss. Secrets of the Great Pyramid, 1978, Peter Tompkins.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't that Egyptologist dude that was.
Oh, no. This is the real deal.
Okay.
So the pyramid's estimated to have 2.3 million stone blocks that weigh from 2 to 30 tons each, and there are even some blocks that weigh over 50 tons. Those are huge stones, of course, And interestingly enough, it was roughly that many Jews that fled during the Exodus too. Very interesting. Little biblical parallel there. Then you got the pyramid of Menkaure, and the pyramid of Khafre, and then the pyramid of Khufu. They're precisely aligned with the constellation of Orion. I mean, precisely. Even with things moving and shaking and everything else, unbelievable. The base of the pyramid covers 55,000 meters squared, or 592,000 square feet. Each side greater than 20,000 meters squared, or 218,000 square feet in area. So they're absolutely huge. And if you've ever visited them before, it's really a sight to see. Even, is the fact that their casing stones aren't there and all that stuff. It's just an amazing thing to even climb up the damn thing. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And it's really something to think that was built thousands of years ago. So yeah, they're just all lined up with the constellation Orion, and that constellation, guys. You see that repeatedly in text that's, span across all different areas or regions of the world and all different belief structures. Orion's a very important constellation, isn't it? Don't all answer it.
Well, it definitely was to these people.
Thank you, Kev. That was good. I appreciate.
Well, I think we were here waiting for you to elucidate us as to why Orion was so important. Because I agree. Obviously, it seems to be important. It's still the only constellation that anybody that I know can actually go out and identify. Right? If you ask
Joe
someone to
sucks at
identify
passing the football, JD. Just so you know. What he likes to do is he likes to wait until everybody's looking the other way.
Hold on.
And then he throws it right into your gut.
I do. Like, oof. Like a 70-pound case of cheese. Yes.
Seriously, he's good at that.
The interior temperature is constant and equals the average temperature of the Earth. That's 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees centigrade. So it's always a constant 68. It's pretty cool. The outer mantle was composed of 144,000 casing stones, all of them highly polished and flat, to an accuracy of 1/100th of an inch, about 100 inches thick, and weighing approximately 15 tons each. 144,000, of course, is very significant biblically, because that's the number that in Revelation it says is, the number of God's chosen people when Christ returns. So that's very interesting, too. There's another biblical parallel to the Great Pyramid. There's also the cornerstone foundations of the pyramid have ball and socket construction capable of dealing with heat expansion in earthquakes. Now, think about that. If we go on the whole cornerstone thing, just in and of itself, that technology, everybody's like, oh, they were cavemen back then, what I mean? They're Egyptians.
Dude, those things have lasted longer than
I know.
And by the way, the Egyptians, their culture, just like our culture, their culture actually got stupider over the course of time, as they progressed.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
It makes you wonder if there was like these ancient cultures, they had more knowledge and more technology than we really do give them credit for. Like, was Atlantis really? What did Atlantis destroy itself? Like, did the Atlanteans were they doing the same kind of stuff we're doing? Did Atlantis have CERN? Did they have their own version of CERN? And suddenly they were like, what's this red button do? Boop.
Oh, we can get into that a little bit later. I think they may have. But this is a fact about the Great Pyramid. I just learned recently. This is interesting. This should be a dead giveaway. The mortar used is of an unknown origin. It's been analyzed, and they know the chemical composition, but they can't reproduce it. And it's stronger than the stone, and it's still holding up today. So that should be clear indication that there was definitely an advanced type of knowledge.
Well, to me, the thing that stands out is that they were building this thing to stand the test of time. And when you got to that cornerstone thing, talking about the the give and take for heat expansion, you got to wonder why are they prepping for heat expansion? And honestly, there's not like they're going to build this thing thinking, oh, we hope it lasts 100 years or a couple hundred years. You set out to build something like this because you know it's going to last. What were they preparing for, and what is it? What is its current state?
If it's an energy facilitating device, or whether it's sending or receiving, it would get hot, would it not?
Potentially.
Right? So as an engineer, which would what you would call the architects of the pyramids, they would be looking at it from an engineer's point of view, going, maybe we should give it some leeway, so when this thing gets hot, and maybe whatever the stone, whatever. If they were worried that it would expand to a certain degree, or they wanted to heat, they wanted to give it room, that if there was some sort of maybe an energy pulse of some sort, they wanted to have a little bit of room for whatever reason, whatever type of expansion, whatever. Maybe it was because it was an energy device. So maybe if they were worried about that, maybe it actually is just more evidence in that favor. At least if you look at it from an engineer standpoint, going, how would I design this? I mean, they design stuff now to flex and stuff with heat. So I'm just saying, makes sense.
No, it's interesting as all can be. And of course, also, because it was covered in these casing stones, made of highly polished limestone, they reflected the sun's light and made the pyramid shine like a jewel. And apparently what happened is in the 14th century, there was an earthquake. It loosened a lot of the stones. And they said that the Arabs went and built mosques with a lot of the encasing stones from the pyramid. But it would act like a gigantic mirror and reflect light so powerful that it would be visible from the moon as a shining star on Earth. And appropriately, the ancient Egyptians called the Great Pyramid Iket, meaning the glorious light. So that's pretty interesting too, how that they're aligned exactly to the Orion constellation and that they shine like diamonds on the Earth's surface. Could it have been some way to communicate?
What about the pyramids on Mars that are kind of lined up in the same fashion?
Exactly.
Wonder about that. And then you got to wonder. And
Come on, that Buzz Aldrin, he's just crazy.
When I made the comment about stupider before, about the Egyptians getting dumber over the course of time, somebody in the chat, I saw they went stupider. Like, huh? Yeah, I'm not saying the Egyptians were stupid. What I'm saying is we consider it right now. We look back at the ancient Egypt and we're like, oh, primitive culture. But when you actually research it, you see that as the Egyptian culture kind of like grew and aged, kind of like our culture is, the people, each new generation was dumbed down like ours is being. And you have to wonder, was it the people that were in charge? Was there some sort of was it the same thing? You know how we say the universe we're in the cycle where we repeat ourselves? Could that have been a former manifestation, since time is not linear, right? And it's the past, present, and future is constantly happening. Could that have been like maybe a past version of this this current generation of human beings? Could that have maybe been like a present run through things, and it didn't go too well because they did the same mistakes and they had people trying to control everything, and over the course of time they got dumber and dumber and dumber? I mean, I'm not saying that Egyptians are stupid or anything, or that the ancient Egyptians were stupid. What I'm saying is you can see the culture, and you can't hide this. The culture got dumbed down, and it got dumber over the years. Each generation was dumber than the one before, kind of like what's going on now. And we know it's an effort being done now. So was it an effort being done then to keep this ancient knowledge hidden away into these secret societies, where it still is hidden away and spirited away and occulted, because that's what occult means hidden, to this very day?
Well, you've got to think, how could they do that? And one way that I would speculate they could do that is they could take our DNA that was functioning at 100% and then over time switch off 96% of it. That big chunk that we call junk DNA. I think at one point that was actually accessible to all of us. And that's where a big bit of the knowledge may well have been lost. Just to set us back a bit, Popeye, a good bit.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like to keep us dumbed down. I mean, you got to wonder why, I know people would be like when Alexandria was burned, the library of Alexandria, people were like, well, people could say, oh, well, it was just dumb invading hordes. What if they were given the instructions to do that on purpose? I mean, it's not like why is it so crazy to think that somebody in the past they could have the intelligence enough to dominate entire nations and peoples, but yet they couldn't have the intelligence enough to lie to a bunch of people and convince them to do something based on a lie? Only our modern day politicians can do that. Like that's something new.
And how do we know that was always destroyed anyway? Maybe that was always available, and then when time travel became up and running, boom, they went back and burnt it. That's history.
Well, that's why the internet is like the modern day library of Alexandria, and people need to. I mean, there's more information now on the internet than there was in that entire thing, and yet back then people used it a lot wiser. Now most people use the internet to watch Netflix or surf for kitten videos. Better be careful because ISIS will recruit you.
Alexandria is probably under the Vatican.
Well, no, I'm sure there's probably a ton of. That's why I said the only country I support invading is the Vatican.
But I mean,
they're a sovereign nation, so I support invading them.
Yeah, but just to show, to your point about the knowledge that existed prior to, there's certain knowledge there that I don't believe you would understand unless you knew the physics of the Earth, meaning that there's some sort of observation being made to be able to put this pyramid where it is. For example, even with the North Pole shifting often, it's still only 3/60th of a degree off from true north after all these years. So at one point in time, it was actually aligned exactly to true north. But this is where it gets really interesting. That is, the Great Pyramid is located at the exact center of the land mass of the Earth. The east and west parallel that crosses the most land and the north-south meridian that crosses the most land intersect in two places on the Earth, one in the ocean and the other at the Great Pyramid of Giza. I mean, how the hell do you know that? Obviously, they knew about it to put the Great Pyramid exactly where it is, because that is one hell of a coincidence.
It's not
if that's the
coincidence.
case.
It's like they had some ability to get up in the sky and do surveying.
The Black Knight satellite told them where to put it.
Oh boy, we got facts about that too. We could do that in hour number 3.
But how hard is it to believe that a species came in here in flying? I don't want to say flying saucers, but they came in here in some sort of.
They just came through their portals.
Well, they would probably use a craft to come through the portal, so their bodies wouldn't be damaged.
Dude, it's all connected to Nibiru. I gotta interrupt you. It's all connected to Nibiru. Nibiru is a Dyson sphere. Boom, finished. There you go. Do you want me to elaborate? Okay, I will. What is a Dyson sphere, you may ask? Well, we are a number 1 class society, really like a level 0, right? Because we don't use all the energy in our environment without any waste. So if you wanted to become a level 3 society, like you would have to be to travel the universe, what would you do? You would build a Dyson sphere, and Dyson sphere would be like a planet shell around a star that wanders, right? You take a brown dwarf star, you wrap it in a big shell, and then you live on that, and there's your energy, and you go wherever the star goes, and then you can go and, populate the populations of the universe wherever you see fit, and come back every once, 36,000 years and check on them. Dyson sphere, it all happens with Nibiru.
Well, hey, maybe it is. I mean, look, I honestly, I think it makes a little bit more sense to think that there were some otherworldly beings that came here and the early humans thought they were godlike. Now, when I say that, I get attacked. People, that means you're atheist. I never said that. Obviously, the otherworldly creatures are some physical creature, right? They have an essence too, right? Well,
Yes.
then something had to create that essence as well. So I totally believe in a grand architect. Okay, I'm not ignorant or arrogant enough to think that we're the only thing out there. That's all. I think it's pretty arrogant to think that humans are only God created you. God only created humans. Really? Really? I don't think so. I think it's more so we're, like we said in hour 1, we're the entertainment for the rest of the universe.
I think all of it would. I mean, even if you look at the potential of there being some other type of civilization out there, how do you know that we're not just an extension of it? Or, you're talking about time travel. They could have been us a million billion years in the future and traveled back in time to be with us now. We could all be part of the universe's expression of itself, experiencing
the Battlestar
itself.
Galactica model.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, it makes the most sense, though. Why limit it? And I totally agree. I think the grand architect, to me, my problem with the whole religious aspect is when we start anthropomorphizing God into like this, person in a cloud that's paying attention to us. No, because if you think about it in terms of frequency, again, we talked about this last time. All of us, in my opinion, are a frequency. Your soul is a frequency, and it is unique to you, and it's infinite. But there has to be an ether. There has to be a medium through which the frequency can flow, and that medium has a lot to do with intention. We could talk about love, but that whole construct, the big thing that the aliens and the Nephilim and the spaghetti monster and whatever, all of our little wishes and wants and whatevers live inside of, that's part of the inside game, or you could say we're all inside the brain of God if you wanted to.
That's my favorite one.
God's not paying
monster.
attention to every single little thing because he's dealing with intention on a grand symphonic scale. He can't be messing around with.
It's not like you said. It's not even a he or she. That's our brain.
That's my fault too.
I do the same thing. Like you fall back onto that old school thing.
Because it's hard. I mean, because that's what we're subject to is male, female all the time.
I think it's energy. I think it's infinite energy, consciousness, and love, and I think that's where we emanate from.
I think science is showing that too.
It's as simple as that. The break sneaking out, guys. Yeah. I'll stick around for like 15 minutes.
Come on. large pictorial muscles.
I'll even stay around for an extra 15 minutes.
Is Truth Frequency
Third
Radio.
hour of the Woo Crew Friday night, extra special night. We're talking about just about everything crazy that we can come up with right now. Spirituality and pyramids and ley lines and CERN, and you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen. So with me, as usual, I'm very excited. I'm kind of the newbie here, but Joe Joseph is here, Kev Baker is here, Popeye is here for another 15 minutes before he has to go work on his powerful glutes, ladies and gentlemen, and he's happy to hang out with us just a little while longer. I really don't remember what we were talking about specifically, but
he goes to the gym to do his the male version of Kegels.
Kegels. But yeah, I don't know. Where were we at? We were talking about consciousness traveling through the ether, I think, before we...
Yeah.
Pretty much just like the universe experiencing itself. I think...
you could have wormholes as the neural pathways.
Can you imagine how chill everybody would be and different, like, of a perspective everybody would be if they realized that right now?
What if the universe was actually like a brain?
Have you guys heard of the egg analogy?
Yes,
before?
I've heard
you want me to read that,
about this. It's
that little story real quick? I'll read that.
Man.
Okay. So here's the story. It's written by a guy named Andy Weir, and I kind of like this analogy. It kind of goes to what we've all been talking about tonight. But this is how it starts. It just says, you were on your way home when you died. It was a car accident, nothing particularly remarkable, but fatal nonetheless. You left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. And the EMTs tried their best to save you, but to no avail. Your body was utterly shattered, and you were better off. Trust me. And that's when you met me. And you asked, what happened? Where am I? And I said, well, you died, pretty matter-of-factly. I don't really like to mince words. And then I said, there was a tree, it was a truck, and it was skidding. And I said, yeah, that was about it. And you said, I died? And I said, yeah, but don't feel bad about it. You know, everybody does. So you looked around, and there was nothing, just you and me. You said, what is this place? Is this the afterlife? And I said, yeah, more or less. You said, are you God? And I said, yep, I'm God. And you said, my wife, my kids, what about them? Are they going to be okay? And I said, that's what I like to see. You just died, and your main concern is for your family. That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff right there. So you looked at me with fascination, and to you, I didn't really look like God. I looked like some kind of man, or maybe a woman, some vague authority figure, maybe more like a grammar teacher than the Almighty. Don't worry, I said. You're going to be fine. The kids are going to be fine. Your kids are going to remember you as perfect in every single way. They didn't have time to grow any contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but she'll be secretly relieved. To be fair, your marriage was kind of falling apart, and if it's any consolidation, she'll feel really guilty that she's feeling relieved right now. And you said, oh, so what happens now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something? He said, neither. You're going to be reincarnated. And he said, so the Hindus were right. And I said, well, all the religions are right in their own way. Come on, let's go for a walk. And so you followed me along as we strode through the void. You asked me where we were going. I said, nowhere in particular. I just think it's nice to talk while we walk and walk while we talk here. So what's the point then, you said? When I get reborn, is it just a blank slate? I'm a baby again. All my experiences, everything I did in this life, it won't matter. I said, no. You've got within you all of the knowledge and experiences of your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. I stopped walking, and I took you by the shoulders, and I said, your soul is more magnificent and beautiful and gigantic than you can possibly imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking a finger into a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put that tiny part of yourself into the vessel, and then when you bring it back out, you've gained all the experiences that it had. You've been a human for the last 48 years, so you haven't stretched out yet and felt the rest of your immense consciousness. If we hung out here for long enough, you'd start to remember everything, but there's really no point in doing that between each life. So you asked me, how many times have I been reincarnated then? I said, lots and lots, and lots and lots and lots, and into lots of different times, and then lots of different lives. And this time around, you're actually going to be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. And I said, wait a minute. You're sending me back in time? And I said, yeah, well, I guess technically, time as you know it only exists in your universe. Things are different where I come from. So where do you come from? You said. Oh, sure, I explained. I come from somewhere else, and there are others like me. I know you'll want to know what it's like there, but honestly, you wouldn't understand right now anyway. And you said, and seemed a little let down, and said, but wait, if I get reincarnated into other places in different times, I could have interacted with myself at some point. Sure, I said, it happens all the time, and both lives are only aware of their own lifespan, so you don't really even know what's happening. And you said, so what is the point of it all? And I said, seriously, you're asking me about the meaning of life? Isn't that a little stereotypical? You kind of persisted and said, that's a reasonable question. So I looked you in the eye and I said, the meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe is for you to mature. And you said, you mean mankind? You want us to mature? And I said, no, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each life you grow and you mature and you become a little larger and a little bit more intelligent. Just me, you said. What about everybody else? I said, there is no one else in this universe. It's just you and me. And you stared back at me really blankly and said, but all the people on Earth, all you, different incarnations of you. Wait a minute. I'm everyone? I said, yeah, now you're getting it. Gave you a little congratulatory slap on the back. I'm every human being who's ever lived, or who's ever lived, yeah. So I'm Abraham Lincoln, yep, and you're John Wilkes Booth too. So I'm Hitler? And you said, yeah, and I said, yeah, and you're the millions that he killed. And he says, I'm Jesus? And I said, yeah, and you're everyone who followed him. So you fell silent and thought about it for a minute. So every time you victimized someone, you were victimizing yourself. And every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human was or will be experienced by you. So you thought about that for a long time and then finally asked, why I do all this? And I said, because someday you will be like me, because someday that's what you are, and that's what you will become, one of my kind. You are my child. And I said, okay, or he said, okay, whoa, wait, you mean I'm a god? And I said, no, you're just a fetus. You're still growing. And once you've lived every human life throughout all time, you will have grown enough to be born. And so the whole universe is essentially just an egg. I know I didn't read that as quite as well as I'd hoped to, but that's the general idea. I kind of like that.
Oh, it's profound, man. The first time I ever heard you saying that, it just rocked me. It really did.
Yeah, I mean, it stands a lot, to the test of time, I think.
It's literally like taking the idea of the universe experiencing itself and putting it out into a story that perhaps maybe if I said to somebody that we're the universe experiencing itself, people would be like, what? That actually breaks it down really well.
Well, it's nice because it applies to the why factor and it ties in religion a little bit. So it kind of, one of the things I like about the holistic nature of the things that most of us are talking about and starting to discover is that nobody really gets left out. There's not a whole, you don't get to talk to somebody about being one of the universe and then say, oh, by the way, you're going to go to hell and burn in hell, because all that crap doesn't apply anymore. You know what I mean? It's
there's parallels, I think, across all the different beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it ties into liberty and it ties into the reality we like to create for ourselves. It's just it's all connected.
I don't poo-poo religion either, or people that like try to follow it. Or I shouldn't. I poo-poo mainstream religion as as like an entity itself, but not the people that look into it or try to find deeper meaning.
I actually religion's just control.
Well, yeah, but I have
to do with this.
I applaud people that try to find something deeper than themselves, even if you get misled by a religion. I'm not bashing you or anything like that. When I take on a religion itself, when I say all religions are arguing over the same thing, they are. I mean, it's silly, but I'm not making fun of anybody's beliefs. Look, I get that you looked into that because you're trying to find something deeper than yourself, deeper than this. You're trying to find meaning. That in and of itself is that's deep. That means that you're a smart human being. That's why I always say, I really believe people have potential. I do. I believe mankind has more potential than it gives itself credit for. The problem is the powers that shouldn't be have people actually thinking about themselves the way all these other people do. So I'm just saying, if I wanted to control you, right? And I would get you to think about yourself the way I thought about you. Like if I looked at you like you were scum, right? But I wanted to control you, but I wanted to do so passive aggressively. I didn't want to get up in your face because you might fight me back, and I might not be able to handle it. What would I do? I'd play mind games with you, and that's what they do. They have the general populace looking at itself that it's useless, and that it's stupid, and it's dumb, and it has no potential. And I honestly don't believe that one bit, or else I wouldn't come on air, and I wouldn't even waste my time if I believed that. So, that's right. Joe's been waiting.
But I know you got to exercise those pectoral muscles, so I only have a limited amount of time. But it felt good.
Oh man, you're such a tool.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the band.
He's just another version of you, Popeye. Love him, man. Be kind to him.
Hey, I'm like this to myself. Like, I think people, they're like, you're too aggressive, Popeye. I'm not. Joe's like my family. If you think I'm aggressive with Joe, you should hear how he talks to me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. See, I don't put
It's
the
all
sensor.
your fault.
I don't put the mute button on my face when I go on here. Joe's a little bit better about that.
Yeah.
I'm just me.
Yeah.
It's all out of love. Joe's like my family. He knows that.
We're all still trying to get our head around the fact we're just an egg.
Hey,
Isn't
man,
that interesting? It is an interesting idea.
How do you know? Wouldn't it be cool if Kev and Joe and JD and me and everybody
That
listening?
means you're Rockefeller as well.
Well,
and
you
Man
can't.
Bear Pig.
And Man Bear Pig.
How could you understand that level of evil and scumbaggery if it didn't exist here? That's why I think this physical plane is for. I think it's like school. So, I was like 6 or 7 years old. I remember this. I was walking across the parking lot with my mother, going into a store, and it hit me. And I don't know why I had this profound thought, and I can remember this. And I remember saying to my mom, I stopped her, and I remember telling her, I know why we're here. And she reminded me of this when I was older, but I remember this. And she said, what do you mean? I said, we're here to learn. And I couldn't explain it because I was young. So I couldn't explain it. And I remember being frustrated because I knew I wanted to articulate it better, but I couldn't. But from the time I was a little kid, I've always thought we're here to learn. So this physical, this physical world that we live in is, our bodies are just physical vessels for our souls to emanate and learn, right? We have to come here to experience.
Just a spacesuit, Popeye. Just a mere spacesuit.
We're just made out of stardust.
That's it. Exactly.
I'm a meat popsicle.
I am of the I'm of the belief that it's more like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and the Earth is actually a big supercomputer, and that as we die, our consciousness is downloaded into the computer until the owner of the computer comes back to download the information that's been amassed over the years. And we know the answer is 42. But what is the question?
Wasn't there a rumor about when Nibiru came back, it would have some kind of magnetic, impact on all of our memories? Like it would basically give everybody a clean.
It would unlock everything. We would just be like all of a sudden, hallelujah. I don't know. I just made that up. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, by the way.
That's what I keep hearing. I read that in a pamphlet once too. Mm-hmm.
Learned that from Popeye. Yep, that always took to heart.
Well, it gets us back to that whole theory there, or the thing that we were talking about with the cube earlier, and somebody had mentioned like a mind trap aspect to that, and that when it comes down to all this stuff,
well, that's what a tesseract is. It's a
tesseract.
Go look up a move. Go on YouTube. You'll see a moving tesseract. I did the last time I had Mark Passio on. We talked about this. We were talking about all the different stuff, and he was breaking down the Congressional Medal of Honor, and it's called a hypercube. And it's like the highest thing in the occult, in the dark occult, I should say. And it's representative of the ultimate mind prison. It's like this ongoing mind prison, and that's why it's actually in the Congressional Medal of Honor. I'm not kidding. There's actually a mind cube in the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Wow.
There's also an upside down pentagram in the Congressional Medal of Honor. So
that's probably just a coincidence, though, right? I mean, that's for the way that it hangs. They had to do that for the ribbon, the way it attaches, or something, right?
Mm-hmm. I was absolutely disgusted the first time I saw that. I was like, well, the last time he was on, he broke it down and he was explaining how the hypercube, and what it was. And I showed in the video, like when I put the video up on YouTube, I showed a tesseract moving, and it instantly popped into my head when I was talking to Mark. Because I already knew about hypercubes, but as soon as I had always called it a hypercube, so did he. But I had never thought of it as a tesseract. And then it hit me. The Avengers movie, we were talking about the Borg, their spaceship, all of it. They're all hypercubes. I mean, think about the underlying. This is my take on it. The underlying theme of the first Avengers film is a group with superhuman powers that are like godlike powers, right? Where have we heard that? I want to be like gods, like these people here, right? Trying to rule things. Fighting it out with actual interdimensional traveling gods and space beings with an army called the Chitauri, and they're fighting over a what? A tesseract that can control humanity. Or
the Chitauri, that's Ken's favorite.
And what is a tesseract? It's a mind prison. So you have two different groups of quote-unquote superhumans fighting over a mind prison. What if they actually what if they actually see themselves as superheroes, meaning the powers that shouldn't be? They see themselves as superheroes trying to obtain this knowledge to control humanity. I mean, you look at the Avengers movie in a complete different light when you start to understand things a little differently. Just saying.
Wow.
I'm way more concerned about, I mean, what did Google announce last week, that they're going to upload people into machines? You know, that seems like a
avatars?
That seems like a pretty convenient way to, incarcerate somebody forever. My big fear, honestly, is that these people have figured out some kind of way to trap your frequency and to keep, forced reincarnation or to controlled reincarnation in some way. Well, look at some of the things I've talked about just this week. They're going to start creating matter from light, right? And that was a mainstream news article. They're able to control heat and magnetism with sound now. So there's your how they build this.
Stealing souls, man, is basically what it is. Almost
if they're
like
talking about it, that means they've done it. You do get that, right?
That's what I'm saying, and that means they did it 40 years ago, Kev. I mean, come on, let's be honest. If
JD.
this isn't mainstream, that's why I'm pointing it out as mainstream.
That's what I says to Joe earlier on as well. I think it was yesterday. I said, I mean, if we're seeing CERN and it's 27 kilometers radius just now, circumference, whatever you call it, I mean, we're probably dealing with ones in backpacks that they can walk about with.
Well, if there's one thing that
Ghostbusters, yeah,
exactly.
Well, I'm thinking about what we learned from Contact, which is if you can build one, why not build two at twice the price? So where's the other one at? That's my question. Where's the other CERN? Is it on the Mars?
I thought we learned from Contact that Jodie Foster should no longer be acting in films, but okay.
I second that
good
one.
Story, though. Definitely a good story.
No, it's an interesting concept.
I don't know.
Noticed there was somebody that didn't agree with it, and the guy is instantly a terrorist, and then they make him a bomber.
Well, how about this? We might well be having some kind of contact experience right now. And this comes from Forbes, and it says a series of mysterious extragalactic radio flashes share a characteristic that defies cosmic theories and could, if other explanations fail, mean that they were sent by aliens. It says that these signals, called fast radio bursts, FRBs, all have in common a peculiar measurement, the figure of 187.5 centimeters cubed. And the authors of a new paper on the pre-publication website ARXIV argue that the chances of this actually happening randomly are 5 in 10,000. So that's a 1 in 2,000 chance. And these bursts are coming from the galaxy somewhere. Is this some kind of intelligent signal? Could it be these people that have seen these movies that we beamed out there, Popeye? There's definitely something going on.
Maybe it's the Chitauri. Look, I'll leave you guys with this because I'm going to bounce. But somebody in the chat room brought up a good point. Hell yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. The Tesseract in the Marvel Universe contains the Mind Gem, which is one of the Infinity Stones, which is what Thanos was trying to put on his gauntlet to have like godlike powers. And the Mind Gem. So the Tesseract it contains the Mind Gem. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a mind prison. So again, you have a group of superhumans, people with abilities that consider themselves to be superhuman, fighting an outside alien / interdimensional traveling force that is trying to gain creative-like powers, because Thanos also has a relationship with death. I couldn't make this up. You should actually really go read the old comic books from when you were a kid again. And they're having this battle between this group of superhumans and this interdimensionally traveling being, Thanos, and gods like Loki and stuff. They're having a battle for the Tesseract, the mind prison that can control humanity. Interesting story. I wonder if that's actually a little closer to the truth, or maybe that's how they view things. Them getting maybe that's the twisted version of it. Maybe they just got the information from this other worldly being. Maybe they're not really at war with it anymore, but maybe that's their way of presenting that this otherworldly entity like the Anunnaki or whatever came and gave them this information and this knowledge, and they use it, whatever it could be. And it may not be a cube or anything. It's just that's a symbol of what it is.
Well, Popeye, there's actually a show on just now, just before you go, and it's called Dig. Now, it's all concerning the building of the third temple. And the interesting part in that is, myself and Joe are going back and forth in the chat below, they have a breastplate that a high priest has to wear. Now, the interesting part about that is it contains 12 gems, 12 gemstones. And just looking at the actual image of the hypercube, it actually looks like one of them, Joe, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does.
Used to communicate with God.
Yeah. And in that, yeah, they were measuring the gemstones as they were trying to find, because when the second temple was destroyed, this breastplate and the stones were scattered throughout the world. And so I guess it's a big conspiracy to rebuild the third temple. The third temple ends up not even being in Israel. It ends up being in Arizona. And so that's kind of interesting.
Wait. Where in Arizona? Sedona?
No, I don't remember. There's New Mexico or something like that. I can't remember what it is.
One of these natural vortices, Popeye.
But basically, they measure these stones for like some radioactive property, or like you were saying, Kev, what if it was like nanodiamond?
Exactly. You know? We think it's radioactive property that they're checking for, but they never actually say that. They're just checking for something unique about them all.
Right, exactly. We just infer it because it goes, like a Geiger counter.
Because that's our normalcy bias. Yeah, it must be just radiation they're looking for. Nothing to see here.
Yeah. But could it be something like that? Like Anthony Patch was talking about.
And talking of Anthony Patch, just so happens he will be coming on for a full 3 hours on Freaky Friday just next week, folks. So stay tuned for that. And I want to give a big shout out to the audience as well, because Tony was telling us that the response he received after this show, it was like nothing he has seen so far. So that's a big shout out to all the listeners out there. Thank you.
Yeah, for showing support there to Tony, because it was a awesome deal to be able to get his books for no cost. So you're taking off there, Poopster?
Yes, gentlemen, I have to hit the road. But as always, it is a pleasure and an honor. And I'll chat with you guys off air before I literally hit the road for like 2 weeks. But I will keep all of the listeners here at TFR apprised as to my travels and what I get up to and into on my little adventure for the next 2.5 weeks. Just go over to my Facebook page, Popeye DTRH, or that's probably the best spot to follow me. Or you can follow me on Instagram. Just look for Popeye.DTRH. You can't miss me, really. It's easy to find me. I made the profile pictures all the same so you could find me. But follow me. I'll post pictures, and it's going to be an interesting journey. The Grand Canyon is probably going to be the coolest part, and that's probably the part I'm the most excited about. So, and then of course I get to go hang out with our good friends Aaron and Melissa for their union of their souls together. Talk about making a power couple of truth.
That's right.
So yeah, it's going to be fun. Anyway, I will catch you guys later. And ladies and gentlemen, I will leave you with this. As I always say on air, and I say this for a reason, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. So, putting all the woo and anything that you might be afraid of that you hear during the week, because that's kind of scary in the real world, like the police state and all that stuff aside, put all that fear and stuff to the side for a second and just realize that you guys are the solutions. Okay. Stop looking for superheroes. If you believe in Rand Paul, voting is a waste of time. It's a selection, not an election. He's not going to solve any problems. None of them will. You're going to solve your own problems. So go be the heroes, and that's the end of the story. I love you all. I'm out of here. Later, guys.
Bye, Pop.
See you, man.
Later, Popeye. I think he just likes that big dramatic early exit, doesn't he?
It's short man syndrome. That's all it is. It's just short man syndrome.
Nah, we love the Popeye. Definitely, man.
Yes.
Did you see that grief he's taking on YouTube right now because of Russia Today?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Big shout out to any YouTubers out there. Just be wary, because Russia Today, usually the safest of channels to re-upload anything from, they hit Popeye with a copyright strike. And it wasn't Ruptly, it wasn't the third party, this was RT. It was a video about the music industry. And the thing is, there's various other copies of that video up there, but Popeye's had over 1 million, and RT pulled it. Just be wary, folks.
Wow.
Pretty interesting.
Down.
Very much so, JD, and it looks as if they're changing all their policies this summer. And it looks like the much dreaded paid version of YouTube isn't that far away. And the paid version, all that will get you is ad-free. But you can get an ad blocker, folks. Don't pay them anything.
That's right. That's right. They want to keep that information. I don't know anybody that learns anything that isn't, on YouTube anymore. Like, I wouldn't go to college or do anything that I couldn't first learn on YouTube now. So they're trying to control all that, They don't want this information getting out.
Yeah, got to change my exhaust manifold. Let me see. Go to YouTube and watch this thing. Okay, that's how you do it. That's how you do everything these days. Go watch a video of somebody doing it.
Let's stop watching at YouTube. Let's just call it what it is. Google.
I guess, yeah. Right. Roger that.
Break time.
We'll be back after these short messages, and then it will be the Geos themselves. Don't worry.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
Welcome back, folks. Final segment of Freaky Friday before we hand it off to the Geos. Kev Baker, JD Moore, and myself, Joe Joseph, here to talk to you about the Black Knight satellite. That's right. Since we were talking about, the Egyptian pyramids, all that kind of stuff, and the fact that they could be used, for any sort of thing, from maybe an energy transference, a Stargate. I don't know what the heck it's used for.
They didn't just build them for nothing. Let's just say that.
Right, but I mean, somehow they were able to get some data that, like, for example, being able to put the pyramid at the exact center of mass of the planet. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable, So there's this, in the 50s, they discover this satellite up in space. They're like, what the hell's that? And this is from ancientcode.com. It's a great place. If you want to see some serious good woo, go check that out. I mean, great site. This is 20 facts about the Black Knight satellite. It says this artificial satellite has caused major media interest since the late 50s, and it's become one of the most talked about objects in space. First thought to be a Russian spy satellite, the Black Knight satellite has gripped the interest of millions nationwide. And here's some facts about it. It says, according to monitoring agencies around the world, the Black Knight satellite has been transmitting radio signals for over 50 years now. Isn't that interesting?
On what frequency? What's it saying? I mean, are we just talking static, or it's just kicking out some radio waves? What are we talking about?
There is an actual message. I will dig it up.
Yeah. Another fact is the USA and Soviet Union have shown particular interest in this unidentified space object, meaning that, it was, I think even Time did an article on it at one point in time. Time, yes. Lots of time.
In a magazine.
Yeah. Let's see. Rumors are that it was Nikola Tesla himself being the first man to intercept a signal from the Black Knight satellite in 1899 after building a high-voltage radio device in Colorado Springs. So, come on, Nikola Tesla, he's no slouch.
Well, he claimed he'd received messages from Martians, didn't he?
That too. I mean, come on. Now, since the 1930s, astronomers worldwide had been reporting strange radio signals, which allegedly came from the Black Knight satellite. I mean, you got to figure that there wasn't many satellites up there at the time, at least that we know of.
And the fact that both the U.S. and Russia are interested in it, they were the leading powers at the time. Anybody putting anything to space was going through those two nations. And if both of us were interested, that means it wasn't either of ours, right? Unless it was a big clandestine thing. So tell me more. Tell me more about this satellite, because I don't know any about this.
In 1957, Dr. Luis Corrales of the Communication Ministry in Venezuela photographed it while taking pictures of Sputnik 2 as it passed over Caracas. And the story of the Black Knight satellite made its debut in the 1940s in the St. Louis Dispatch and the San Francisco Examiner that wrote about the satellite on May 14th, 1954. Now, they knew about this satellite before we ever put anything into space. And even Time Magazine, remember I was saying that earlier, wrote about this on the 7th of March, 1960 edition about the Black Knight satellite. So, I mean, these are things that in the 50s and the 60s, this was talked about a lot. And no one really gives a rat's patoot, anymore, because no one talks about it.
Well, okay, so wait a minute. So are we to still understand that this thing is still floating around out
Oh,
there?
it's still there, man. And, it would have to be a Scotsman that would decode the message. And that was in the 70s by somebody called Duncan Lunan, a scientist from Scotland. And what he done was he plotted a vertical axis of the transmitted pulse sequence with a horizontal axis of the echo delay time. The result, a picture of the constellation Bootes as it would look 15,000 years ago. And then there was this message: start here. Our home is Epsilon Bootes, which is a double star. We live on the 6th planet of 7. Check that, 6th of 7, counting outwards from the sun, which is the larger of 2. Our 6th planet has 1 moon. Our 4th planet has 3. Our 1st and 3rd planets each have 1. Our probe is in the orbit of your moon. This updates the position of Arcturus shown on our maps. End of message.
Get that.
Yeah. What language was it being broadcast in? Can I ask that?
Wasn't it like a number sequence?
Yeah, it was like some kind of
math.
Yeah, it was binary, and it was some hexadecimal. I'm not sure what it was, but yeah, that's what there you go.
Well, math is a universal language, so if you're going to communicate, numbers are always good, or patterns, because you can normally, interpret a pattern. But anyway.
It says here that there was a message hidden in the dots on the graph. Lunan was able to translate into simple English the meaning of these echo delay discrepancies, proving that there was some kind of highly intelligent order to it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Well, and if it's still out there and it's still kicking that out, anybody could probably go out and verify that, right? I mean, not anybody, but
operators have actually picked this up, JD.
Wow.
Yeah. It says in 1957, an unknown object was seen shadowing the Sputnik 1 spacecraft. According to reports, the unidentified object was in a polar orbit, which we didn't have the capability to do at that time. We were just figuring out. Sputnik just went up. It was like the first one. We had no idea how to put anything in polar orbit. So that was that's interesting.
One satellite we just mentioned recently on the show, Joe, was the GOSI satellite. Now, that was in a polar orbit. And what that was doing was it was mapping the gravitational force at different locations on the planet. And that's where they came up with the fact that there was these gravitic anomalies or gravitical waves around the Alps, the Himalayas and stuff like that. And that's what led us all to speculating about the Germanwings crash.
Yeah.
So, was this in a polar orbit mapping something similar?
But see, that's very good, very good. We didn't possess the technology to do polar orbiting satellites until 1960. So all of this being said, it was in a polar orbit, prior to us even having satellites up in space. Now, to your point, Kev, polar orbits are used most often for Earth mapping, Earth observations, capturing the Earth as time passes from one point, and reconnaissance satellites. So this would put the Black Knight in the category of an observational satellite.
I disagree. I disagree. I got to disagree, because if you think about 15,000 years ago, wouldn't it be more likely that people were living on the poles, specifically Antarctica? And wouldn't that have been where the target of, if you're trying to get through to people, you're going to put this thing on top of them? So maybe Antarctica holds the key.
I think
that would
there's
be
a lot
cool.
down
Yeah.
Antarctica that we're not being told about.
I agree.
In the 1960s, the Black Knight satellite was located once again in polar orbit. Astronomers and scientists calculated the object's weight to be over 10 tons, which would be, at the time, the heaviest artificial satellite to orbit our planet. And the Black Knight's orbit was unlike any other object orbiting Earth. Let's see. The Grumman Aircraft Corporation gave much importance to this mysterious satellite. On September 3rd, 1960, 7 months after the satellite was first detected by radar, a tracking camera at Grumman Aircraft Corporation, Long Island's factory, took a photograph of the Black Knight satellite. And the Grumman Aircraft Corporation formed a committee to study the data received from the observations, but didn't make anything public.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
and the Grumman people, those fine folks at Northrop Grumman, they're very altruistic. So obviously they're studying it for benevolent, purposes, benefit of humanity type stuff.
We were talking about the pyramids earlier, guys, and we were fascinated by how they managed to get them in such a brilliant location. Something like this possibly could have aided them with that, could it not, Joe?
Yeah. Dude, anything's possible. That's one thing that I've come to learn about all this stuff. Anything's possible. I mean, damn. It says here in 1963, Gordon Cooper was launched into space. On his final orbit, he reported seeing a glowing green object in front of his capsule in the distance moving towards his spacecraft. And the Muchia tracking station in Australia, which Cooper reported the object to, picked up the unidentified object on radar traveling east to west. And it was a ham radio operator who apparently decoded a series of signals received from the UFO satellite and interpreted it as a star chart centered on the Epsilon Buddhist star system.
I wonder if the message has changed. I wonder if that thing could have been, set there a long time ago, and then as humanity developed the ability to, receive radio and then be able to get, because math is kind of, it really had the birth there in the Arabian area too, which is what we consider the center of humanity, or the birth of humanity. So I don't know. I'm wondering if the message has changed over time.
Maybe
Seems
that,
like it's been there
that
long.
is what actually collapses everything into reality. We always know about the power of observation. So what if that is observing us all the time? Galactic CCTV, whoever put us here, could be watching to see when we do graduate.
Like that camera at the football game that goes across the field?
Yeah, man, that suspended one, that cool one. And they're watching live streams. Are they ready yet? Will they graduate this
How many?
year?
Let's play devil's advocate. How many other big, clumpy looking things are out there floating around in an orbit? Are there a lot of other than the moon? I'll give you that one. But other than that, are there other natural satellites out there that kick off radio waves that weren't put? I just realize how much trouble it is to put something into orbit and make it stick, and then to make it stick for 15,000 years and not hit all of our other satellites and things.
We've sent JD down a rabbit hole, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. Okay, so you're in the Epsilon Buddhist star system. How the hell are we going to get there? I mean, come on. Wait a minute, Stargate. That's it. Okay, boys, let's crank up CERN.
We've got CERN cracking up. Then we've got Cheyenne Mountain. It's activating. And wasn't the Stargate series based there? Could it be that this ley line grid is firing up the ancient tech that they got from Iraq during Operation or Project Nibiru? It's now been powered up as we speak. Stargates, Joe.
And then what?
I don't know. That was wooing up for me, man.
I got to ask. And then what? So, that's kind of like, what do we do now? There's these big, it kind of reminds me, do you remember the I don't know if JD may remember, but you remember the bad 80s movie, Howard the Duck?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
And that, that portal that opens up, and it's that big, half lobster, half garden grub looking beast that's coming through this portal, and they got to send him back or whatever, or destroy it. And it's kind of like that, that's that vision I get when they talk about CERN opening gateways and all these freaking, it's like, blah, 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 that horrible claymation demon coming through.
I agree. And
it's like, what do you do then at that point?
Well, I mean, I want to get back to Kevin's question about whether or not these people are actually planning on some kind of bad thing happening, because that I think, you watch their actions in this move back to Cheyenne Mountain.
Stuff going on. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on. And, they're quote unquote, because it's more hardened against EMP. They knew that back in 2006 when they spent the same damn amount of money getting Peterson Air Force Base ready to go.
Let's say this. What if they know that some sort of magnetic storm or electromagnetic storm is coming?
That's where I was going with this.
Why does it have to be a nuke? It doesn't have to be a nuke.
No. I think I want to get back into the Nibiru thing. I was watching this, and I don't remember who was doing the interview, but there was a guy named Kalami, and he's a Arabic astrophysicist or something like that, an astrobiologist. Very smart dude, but he was talking about Nibiru, and he was being very candid about it and talking about if you look at the Sitchin stuff, it talks about this kind of the red planet coming through, and it's got these two trails coming off of it. And he says, all that stuff that's trailing off of it right now is essentially iron oxidation. It's iron oxide, right? And as that thing comes through our galaxy, and that's what we've seen before, is that iron oxide that's coming off Nibiru is going to potentially blot out the sun. That's what's going to end up covering the world. That's where you get into the bad part of the Bible.
Well, JD, is that what would have made Mars red?
Possibly. Also, the same gentleman suggests that that's where the rings of Saturn came from. And I would definitely recommend people check out the rings of Saturn makers, or the makers of the rings of Saturn, because, I mean, to me, there's something up there, and I know we're getting way woo here in the late hour, but there's something up there making those rings, and there's potential that Saturn was kind of closer to us. We talked about that. You guys talked about that with Anthony Patch. And if that was the vacuum sweeper of the galaxy, so to speak, after Nibiru came through, those rings could be the remnants of all that matter. And that if that matter hit us now, you would have to have a big seed vault. You'd have to have underground facilities that could last 100 years. You'd have to have all the crazy crap that we hear that these people are building right now. For the long term stuff, and I don't know. That guy made a lot of good points that kind of
would you say that then people are preparing for an extinction level event? Because it seems to be like what you don't build seed vaults, in the Arctic Circle in record time, where there's no infrastructure for it. Yeah, right north of I think Norway.
Yeah, it's Norway.
Yeah, they put that big ass seed vault. Mm-hmm. And they did it in like 9 months. I mean,
this sounds bad, right? If I was running the world, though, I would actually want my scientists to keep a good copy of all the seeds out there.
No doubt.
Yeah,
of course.
I don't think that we can read too much nefarious into that. But
no, and I don't. But it's just when you tie it all together.
Yes, with the guidestones, everything else.
Guidestones, the underground bases, all this kind of stuff. All the rich building their fortified underground bunkers, and
they built themselves a contingency plan for something.
There is exactly, and
that's the bottom line.
To me, they just seem to be so self-centered. They don't seem to be that far planning ahead, at least in my mind, and based on what I see. But that's just me. I mean, of course, there's probably a very small minority that are really behind all this. Here's the other interesting thing. Over in Russia, they're building fallout shelters for all the citizens. Over here, we don't get that.
Not only that, they're now activated, Joe.
That's interesting too. But over here in the United States, they don't build the bunkers and all that for us. Oh, but the taxpayers pay for it. But no, that's for the bureaucrats, the select bureaucrats, or pawns or puppets, and just their select people. It's their cronies. So basically, that's all built on the backs of the slaves.
Everything is, though. I mean, I don't want to get all political here, but all of these institutions, that you see that are crumbling around you right now are the ones that are only they only exist for their own self-existence. You know, you've got education, which is fake, entertainment, which is fake, politics, which is fake, the money system is fake. All of that stuff only exists to prop its own self up, right? So this whole contingency of government plan is built on the continuity of government. It's not built on the continuity of your well-being. They don't care about you, other than the fact that you actually do float the fiat currency. You know, it's your time, talent, and energy that actually is funneled into the fiat currency. But that's a whole different topic for a different woo. But anyway, yeah, it's a great game. I'm excited to be a part of it all. Go team!
Go team!
Well, somebody in the chat, I think it was Oblivion, just going back to the whole Nibiru thing, he was saying that this iron oxide cloud, that's actually one of the things that may be masking Nibiru coming in. Now, I don't know if there is a Nibiru or not, but I do know that singular star systems, quite rare. Binary, far more common. Is there something coming in? Who knows, guys?
I don't know. They played it up, the binary system in Star Wars too. That was kind of the first public, display of Luke's home planet was binary star system.
Plus, there's something messing with the like Neptune's orbit and everything else.
That's the whole thing that people never think about. I mean, I remember freaking in 1984 watching the news when I was a kid, and they come out and they're like, "Oh, there's a 10th planet, Planet X, by the way. We can tell because it's affecting Jupiter and it's 400 billion miles away." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool. Never thought about it." And then in '96 they came back out and they're like, "Oh, Planet X, we think it's really there, and it's 100 billion miles away." So wait, okay, in freaking 12 years it moved 300 billion miles, and you're just saying that on the news, and we're going to go on to puppies and whatever we're going to talk about next. Like, this seems important to me. They do definitely know that there's something else out there, than a massive planet. I mean, that's not conjecture. That's NASA, which I guess could be considered conjecture at this point, but who knows? You got to wonder about everything, don't you? We were talking about astrology the other day.
Yeah.
About how who was it that had the quote? Was it one of the Rothschilds or no? It was Warren Buffett or somebody said that millionaires don't use astrologists, but billionaires do. Do you guys remember a couple of years ago on the news when they talked about the extra zodiac sign? They kind of, for like 2 weeks, they were talking about the 13th zodiac sign. They kind of flushed it in. Everybody freaked out and they pulled it back out.
13th house, yes.
Well, I was thinking about it the other day. If you're understand the power of astrology, right? And we also know, just given, I don't know, the dates of the month, we don't know what the hell day it is. We don't know what the hell month it is. I mean, look at, again, I always go back to September and December. December Deca would be 10. It's the 12th month of the year, right? October, great example, is that it should be 8. It's not. So we don't know what's going on. I wonder if they've got like a different set of astrological charts. Like if their crap is calibrated and everybody else is just kind of running around, and they've muddied the waters to that point that, you couldn't make a logical assessment using astrology if you knew enough about it to do so.
Well, you got to go back to the ancient timekeeping, and how they used to measure it then. Well, that's why, when you talk, like, whenever you do biblical research, you always use the Hebrew calendar, because that's the way it goes. There's one thing they do: they can count. They can count real good. So they've counted for 6,000 years now, and this is the way it's always been. And it's not, it's not Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That thing. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right.
And that's how it goes. And it's been that way forever. And it uses the moon and the sun for accuracy. So, and that goes back to, like the ancient cultures and how connected they were with astronomy and, the Aztecs,
I was thinking about the cross the other day. Have you ever seen one of those crosses that's got the circle around the top? You see that on churches all the time. A lot of people, you know what that is?
No clue.
That was a tool. Okay, so that if you took that cross today, make it 6 feet tall, and you're standing next to it, and you've got the cross with a circle on it, and you were to attach a string with a plumb bob right in the very center, you could take that staff and you could line the cross staff, the cross of the cross, up against the sun, and then you could measure the angle. That might tell you things like when to plant your crops, what year it was, what day it was, things like that. And I don't know, maybe if you knew that stuff, people would want to follow you around because you probably knew when to plant food and do stuff like that. But that was actually a tool used to figure out the days and the time and the precession of the equinox and all that kind of stuff, which makes sense because it does predate Christianity as we know it.
I mean, all this ancient knowledge is just amazing. The Mayan calendar. How did they know all of the cycles and that kind of knowledge? It was just lost or hidden. That's the thing. And gosh, it's so hard to go to people and try and explain this to them, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are like, gosh darn it, man, those Freaky Friday guys, they're a bunch of crazy loons, those guys there, But really, it's not all that crazy, because the more that you look into this stuff, the more real you realize it becomes. And the weirder, the more real it is. It's like, damn, they're really that screwed up? Ugh. I can't. There's no other way to describe it. It's one of those like, just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it does.
It really does. It really does. Yeah.
And now
come on, there isn't a more interesting time that I can think of to be alive right now.
Yeah, now they want to open portals and all this.
Exactly, man. We're about to peer into other dimensions. The stuff of sci-fi films, man.
I'm actually kind of with Kevin on this. When you guys asked me about where I would go, that's one of my problems is I'm really excited to be alive right now. Because of how absolutely crazy it is.
Exactly.
We're going to see things in our lifetime. Well, I mean, you're not getting out of here alive, buddy. And the bottom line too is, no matter, to me, unless they come up with this brain trap thing or the ability to capture my soul and my frequency or my strand of the spaghetti monster, whatever you want to call it, unless they come up with that, I'm not concerned about it, man.
Let me raise my chickens and my goats.
They can wipe my body out. They can suck us into another dimension. I'm down for the ride. Let's do this. I'm totally fine because I'm infinite, man. I know it. I've read a pamphlet in depth about DMT, and I understand.
Freaky Friday on the other side, JD.
Tell
That's
Jehovah's Witnesses to go away, JD. Go away. No, thank you.
No, I'm down for this.
You don't read the pamphlets, JD.
Well, I got one about Flocka the other day, and it was pretty interesting. So I'm gonna be avoiding that one. Just saying.
Yes,
I'm gonna be doing some Flocka right after the show.
Marty, run!
Is that? No, that at KBS it's Flogga, not Flocka.
Flocka sounds better.
Yeah, he likes Flogga. That's when he whips out the cat of nine tails and beats the crap
tomatoes.
Oh wow!
Because that's how Kev is. He's very, very, very high standards.
That's why I love you, my Canadian brother.
And we're about done here.
We really are.
It is.
We've exhausted every topic.
Nearly, yeah.
But hey, that's what makes Freaky Friday so nice. Especially when we don't have a guest every once in a while. We can just kind of break loose and talk about whatever it is that kind of comes to mind. And tonight, there was nothing short. No shortage of things that came to mind. So with that said, it's time for the Geos to take over. So JD, thanks. Kev, it was awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes. And remember, folks, wherever you are, make it TF